I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is the NFL Draft. It is Christmas time for us who freak on this, and I am one of them. And we are joined here today with some of our more august panel members. We have from New York City, Mr. Tom McAllister. Thank you, sir, for being here. And the empty chair represents Mr. Joshua Griffith, who's running to the kitchen, getting that one last glass of water before we get going here. And hey, before we get started, we all have to do our homework. I need you to reach out right now, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for that. We really need you and we really appreciate it. Hit that notify bell. That helps as well. And be sure and give that like so that we're spread out and more people can get the message on the show. Hey, let's dive right to it. It is 1/2 an hour to the NFL Draft. There's one topic that's just streaming across everyone's mind right now. We would be remiss not to discuss it, wouldn't we, Mr. Joshua Griffith? Because you bringing it up, Aaron Rodgers has managed to insert his diva-ness into the news once again, has he not?
Yes, obviously being the host of Jeopardy was not enough spotlight for Aaron Rodgers, as Adam Schefter has reported earlier this afternoon, to get everyone's draft day started in a big bang, that he is disgruntled with the way that ownership and the franchise is going right now and does not want to report back to the team. So obviously they will be looking at maybe trade options with him. Will we have some crazy trade draft day scenarios? Who knows? But it is some interesting situations coming out of Green Bay this morning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was having a discussion with somebody about this, and, Aaron Rodgers is a diva. Just get over it. He is. And not only do you have to pat him on the butt, you've got to make him think that you believe it. And they're not getting that done. They're not stroking his ego enough, especially after they slapped him in the face. They needed to find a way to eat some crow and make him feel good, and they just haven't done that. And now he's MVP of the league. He has all the leverage, I think. Tom, what do you think?
I really think this started when the Green Bay Packers drafted Jordan Love at quarterback, because Aaron Rodgers remembers how he came into the league when he was drafted and he replaced Brett Favre, and that wasn't a pretty split, was an ugly divorce to say the least. And I think this is something where if you're Aaron Rodgers, you want to get to one more championship. And he could probably go out, and if he can manipulate the situation where he can go out and go to a contender, great, because that's what he wants. He wants that one more ring. I just think it's a little interesting that this information came out on draft day. This didn't come out the day after the season ended. There were some rumors about it. He wasn't happy. But I think my question is not what the news is, but why it came out today. I think that's almost something that got me more interested than anything else.
Well, it's the number of cameras. It's no secret. I mean, he's a diva. He and his agent, picked this time specifically because this is where all the cameras are pointing right now. And he wanted the attention on him. And he wanted to be known that he is upset, not was. There's no past tense here. I mean, he likes it when it's about Aaron Rodgers. He really does. But the guy delivers. And as long as he delivers, you've got to figure out how to, as a coach and as a front office, that's your job, is to get these guys to play. I mean, he works his ass off. He's not a problem. He's not doing anything illegal. This guy is nothing but a producer on the field. His teammates love him. Figure out how to make this work. I mean, that's on the front office. That's on the head coach. And right now, they're failing in that, is my opinion. Josh, what do you think?
Absolutely failing it. I mean, Tom already mentioned on the draft pick Jordan Love last year. That's not the needs that the Green Bay Packers had. And this year with the 29th overall pick, are they going to be able to address it enough that it warrants Aaron Rodgers saying, okay, maybe I'll give this opportunity, this franchise another opportunity? Do they need to maybe make a splash, maybe move up, draft a big playmaker that gives Aaron Rodgers those weapons that he's been so desperately seeking? Like, obviously we've had, Davante Adams this year has given the Green Bay Packers offense new life, but he's always asking for more. And you got to think he deserves it. He's coming off an MVP season. And he just continues to be a better quarterback. And if it's not going to be a fit in Green Bay, then I think this guy deserves to find greener pastures somewhere else.
Oh, I think he's earned it. I agree with that. You know, whether you like him or not, I mean, this is not a popularity contest. I mean, this is about winning in the NFL. I mean, this get over. And I've also seen a large contingent of people, and I do not understand this take. They want him to get over it. What are you so sensitive for about having dropped in the draft? You know, you got your money. What are you so sensitive for? I don't want a quarterback that gets over that. Did Tom Brady get over it? No, he's still juiced about it. And I love that about Tom Brady, that his skin is so thin that he can use that and help motivate him and help keep himself focused. These guys are masters of taking anything, any slight, however small or non-existent it is, and turning it into motivation. It's part of the way that some of the great athletes go. Michael Jordan was the same way. Like, what, you looking at me? You know, yeah, Tom.
I mean, can we say Aaron Rodgers might have taken this personally? Could we go?
Yeah.
Could we go that route, to say the least? But I really think you're, you know, as a follow-up questions, we talked about if Aaron Rodgers moves, which teams would have the capital and the flexibility, and it's also the Packers would be a willing team to trade him to. I think those are some things to look at. Where, you know, because I have a tough time seeing the Packers trading Aaron Rodgers within the NFC. You know, would they go to an AFC team? But if you're going to the AFC, you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. Honestly, I would rather go up against a Tom Brady team than a Patrick Mahomes team next season.
Well, and also, guys, you know, there's this thing right now of like, okay, in order to win in the NFL, you've got to have a QB taken with the first 2 or 3 picks, and it's going to cost me, you know, a first round this year, first round next year, maybe a third first round, or definitely some more picks thrown in there. And then you just drop back to a draft not that long ago where you had at the top of the draft, you had Carson Wentz, you had a Goff, and, you know, teams giving away everything to trade up and get these guys. Those 2 guys are now no longer with their teams that did that to get them. And, you know, Prescott just became the richest guy in the NFL. And he was just let the draft come to me. Just let the draft come to me. The point here is you don't know where the talent's going to come from. It's not necessarily in the first couple picks, especially at quarterback.
Yeah,
No,
I think you bring up a good point. You can look at Dak Prescott and also Russell Wilson. You know, and you can bring back too Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. They didn't make it to his second contract, and it's almost like there's this run on quarterbacks now that it's just going to totally change the NFL draft, and teams are going to overpay. Josh, what do you think about that?
No, you're exactly right. It's a bounty of quarterbacks, and we see it every single year with just teams redrafting and redrafting. I mean, the New York Jets are an abomination of a franchise, but they're a perfect example of a team that just continues to draft quarterbacks in high rounds, hoping that they stick and that they're a fit with the franchise and throwing them in. And when we've seen the better quarterbacks, even Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith in Kansas City. So, you know, we see the better quarterbacks are the ones that have the greatest careers, minus, say, maybe Peyton Manning as the number 1 overall pick, but they sit on the bench. They do some time. They do some learning. They're not necessarily a star coming out of college that everybody's talking about on draft day. So it's curious that that's the way that the NFL has chosen to go. Just it's almost like it's a lottery ticket. Like they're taking a random chance that this might be the next star when really the odds are not very good.
No, well, you know, but both Goff and Wentz did help get their teams to the Super Bowl. I mean, Goff really did. And then Wentz at least got his team to the playoffs. So they did give some payback for what they, put up there. But then the whole thing fell apart. The lack of draft picks that you gave away is so hard to overcome and stay within the cap. And you have this window, and then that window's gone.
I'm sorry. Why does Jared Goff get lumped into this category? I heard on every show, on every sports show, Jared Goff, first round draft pick that busted. Last time I looked at season winning percentage and stats, Jared Goff has had 4 straight winning seasons after
because he got traded
season.
Because his team traded him away. That's why.
So that's why it has nothing to do with him being actually good.
That's it. No, he's a valid QB. I mean, like Wentz is a valid QB. There are people that would argue with that. Okay, well, let's move on real quick because the draft is going to start here in about 10 minutes. And there's another subject we wanted to talk about that could really affect what's coming up in the draft. And it's an old school player that is rumored to be coming in at tight end. What do you got on this, Tom?
Yeah, so basically, this was before the Aaron Rodgers news broke. Tim Tebow, yes, Heisman Trophy winner Tim Tebow, who was his college coach? Was it Urban Meyer, right? Okay, yep. So Urban Meyer, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, brought in Tim Tebow for a tryout, and this time Tim Tebow would be a tight end. So this is something that gets that could be very interesting going forward, especially if you're bringing in a quarterback as the number 1 draft pick. You bring in Trevor Lawrence, then you have Tim Tebow. Is he going to be a gadget player? Remember, Tim Tebow actually won a playoff game.
Yeah.
It was a while ago, but this is something to keep into consideration. Granted, he has this relationship with Urban Meyer. We'll see if Jacksonville just becomes the NFL version of Florida from the late 2000s or Ohio State. But I think this is a story going forward. Now, Josh, how do you see this Tim Tebow getting a tryout? Do you see that impacting the draft? Do you even see Tim Tebow signing with the Jaguars? What do you think?
I think it's going to affect my fantasy baseball numbers if Tim Tebow's now an NFL player again. Just to have a shocking NFL draft day opening like we did with the Aaron Rodgers news, and like you said, this kind of came before it. I didn't really know what to make of it. I knew that he played tight end in college. I knew that was kind of talked about when he was struggling at quarterback, maybe making the move to it. But it's an interesting choice. I'd be really excited to see some of the workout tape if there is any of that, and we can see it. If he's not too bad, because Tim Tebow is kind of a big guy and he didn't mind running people over and as a quarterback in the NFL. So, hey, maybe the Tim Tebow experience is not over, but it just has changed to tight end.
I really think Tim Tebow would have fit in well with Paul Hornung and Frank Gifford back in the 1950s and 1960s, just as those slash type receivers being head coached by a Newt Rockne, to say the least. But Van, what do you think about Tim Tebow potentially re-signing or signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars and his former coach, Urban Meyer?
I think immediately he becomes the number 1 tight end in the league with the best arm. If you want to know which tight end has the best arm, I'm going to go Tebow. Okay, I'm not saying there aren't some other tight ends that can't throw the ball really well, but I'm saying Tebow's probably got the best arm out of any tight end right now. Makes him number 1 in that category right away. Plus, you can play him as an H-back type tight end, deploying him out of the backfield, out of the slot. He's big enough that you can sometimes put him on the, to try and close down the edge, playing next to the tackle, but that's not his forte. His forte is to play a little bit off and then move him around a little bit, because he does understand how plays develop. He is able to work with a QB and be his best friend. And the dude can block, and he's good at blocking in space. I think it's a hell of a way to do it. Plus, Urban Meyer's, he likes trick plays and stuff. And I think he's going to try everything that he can throw at the NFL.
Now, could this be something too? I feel like trick plays come in when the team does not have enough talent to match up with the opposition.
Exactly.
So this could be something where Tim Tebow, are we going to see the rebirth of the Wildcat, or something where throwing tight ends? That could be something. But did you really see the gadget plays increasing with The Jaguars going forward.
Yeah, but he's kind of older now. Be more like a wild possum more than a wild cat. I don't, I wouldn't, I wouldn't really go down that road. But no, he's still a powerful guy. He played some fullback and did it somewhat effectively. So, I mean, he's got some power and some oomph to his game. I just don't count a guy like him out. He not only is he more athletic than people give him credit for, he's also a very focused individual. He has a lot of discipline, and he's not going to make a mental error. So he's going to make him better. Hey, I have some good news. It's almost time. I mean, we're just 15 minutes out, guys. This pick is coming up. It's getting damn exciting time. So, Tom, in the green room beforehand, and this is a subject I really want to dive into and use to kind of springboard into the actual draft itself, where we're going to rotate and cover each pick for you guys. We got a lot of information there, so hang on. And if you haven't already, hey, please reach down, hit that subscribe, hit that notify, buy some gear. Do it all. All right, we really appreciate it. Tom, you're talking about at pick number 3. That is going to be a divergence point. It's going to make or break the decision-making process for a lot coming right after it. Please explain your thought process on that.
Yeah, so basically Trevor Lawrence is number 1 going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 2, a lot of people think it's going to be Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU. Number 3, which remember, the 49ers gave up a lot of draft capital. They jumped over a lot of teams to get up to number 3. Some people were saying it was Mac Jones, and then San Francisco saw him play. And after that, after the 49ers organization saw Mac Jones at Pro Day, they got a little bit jumpy. So you got to wonder what the 49ers are going to do. Are they going to go with the quarterback, either Trey Lance or Mac Jones? Or are they going to go with another direction? And I really think that's going to influence basically the picks that come after, especially in the top 10, and also who else trades up. So I think that is something to look at. Van, what do you think about the 49ers pick at number 3?
I think you're spot on, but I think there's 3 QBs at the top. All right. And I think it may surprise some people as to exactly how they end up shaking out, because every team has their own vision of what makes sugar plums dance in their head. And it's not always what their fan base has as a vision of what makes sugar plums dance in their head. If you don't believe me, Dallas Cowboys fans have been trying to get a 325, 340-pound defensive lineman at the one tech for, 10 years. Not happening, So, and then all of a sudden last year they got one. So, who knows? But for right here, those 3 QBs are going to go. And I have to feel that San Francisco, John Lynch is no dummy. I mean, yeah, he was a tough guy, but he was never a dumb guy. And picking 3rd at there's 3 QBs available, you've got to be willing to take one of 3, not one of 2. Otherwise, don't spend that capital to move up there. That's it. So I really believe that it's going to be 3 QBs right there. Boom, boom, boom. However, I do think you're right about they got maybe or, and as that was reported, but I don't think that matters because Mac Jones is going to be going and he's going to be going early.
Josh, what do you think about the 49ers pick?
Like Van said, like you guys both alluded to, you don't make those kind of splashes. You don't trade up to the number 3 overall pick to maybe, take a lineman, take a wide receiver. You're doing it to make a splash. You're doing it because you think that the Jaguars and the Jets have their picks solidified 1 and 2, and you're getting your guy at 3, and you're getting your guy that's going to maybe lead the franchise for as long as the 49ers, are going to have success. And like Van mentioned, John Lynch isn't an idiot. He's a smart guy, so he knows what he's doing there. And I heard an interesting story about Mac Jones the other day, and it wasn't about his arm strength or about maybe him dropping a perfect ball into somebody. It was about him stepping up in a pocket, just hitting a crossing pattern for a touchdown. But having a linebacker running 8 yards at him, full speed, and knowing that he was just going to absolutely blow him out of the water. Well, Mac Jones obviously just stepped up, took it for the team, threw the touchdown, got blown right up. There's little intangibles like that I think the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are looking for in a quarterback, and I think that's why they made this decisive decision to trade up to number 3.
You know, Josh, while I respect your opinion, I'm going to have to disagree with you, and I think this is why. When you're a college quarterback and you're playing Alabama, you have pros at every position. Okay. How many times did Mac Jones really face pressure in college? Not that much. Twice, maybe 3 times. And when he goes to the NFL, and if he's going to be starting as a rookie for the San Francisco 49ers, he is going to be running for his life, most likely. He's going to see pressure that he has never seen before, and he's not going to have the skill players who have such an advantage against the opposition. I think that's why certain players who come from these elite college programs, especially at quarterback, they have a difficult time transferring over to NFL because they never dealt with pressure. Trevor Lawrence, he came in, people projected him as the number 1 pick in the draft coming up, and he still delivered. So he can at least deal with the expectations of it. Even though he might not have dealt with as much pressure, Trevor Lawrence still dealt with high expectations. Mac Jones, on the other hand, that's why I think Ohio State quarterbacks really haven't panned out the last few years, is that they're not used to that pressure going forward. Van, what do you think?
I think you make great points, but to offset that, and this is what the scouts are seeing. And first of all, everything that you said is correct about the level of competition, what's going on around, and pressure. Totally agree with all that. On the flip side, if you take somebody like Justin Fields, his average time before release, 3.1 seconds. That ain't going to cut it in the NFL. That is just not going to cut it. You got to get it down, 2.1 to 2.6 seconds, somewhere in there. I mean, the closer to 2.1 you get, the better. 2.5, okay, we can work with it in there. But Mac Jones, 2.5 seconds, like clockwork. Boom, 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 boom. He helped his line deliver that no pressure. Now, would they have probably delivered it anyhow at 3 seconds? I'm going to say yeah. So, you make a valid point, but the scouts look at it and they go, you know what? He's not going to really see a great uptick, not as long as he keeps getting rid of the ball like that, because his processing speed and what's going on and everything like that. Now, he benefited from having guys to throw to, et cetera, like that, wait a minute, my guy's bigger, faster than your guy. He's open. Okay. But the thing is, he makes the throws, and they got him in there, and they know how to set up those throws in that dial, and he makes the throws and he processed it. But then he also threw a few inaccurate ones. Everybody remember Bill Belichick's face in the, So the thing is, it looks like he translates well. That doesn't take away from anything that you said. But unlike previous Bama quarterbacks, which did not get the ball out in 2.5, heck, some of them didn't get it out for 3.5. This guy does. He is a quintessential pocket presence.
And I want to touch back on that on Tom, ripping me on Mac Jones. So yeah, like you said, yes. So he's got
It's okay to rip Josh.
Oh, okay, perfect. Wait, what? So he's got the great line. Like you said, he's got the coverage, but it's not in the 48 throws that he isn't touched. It's in the one throw that he maybe has the pressure, where he kind of shows that little bit extra, that pocket presence, like Van has mentioned, that not every QB has, that it's to stand in there and be like, okay, well, I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to throw this, even though I'm going to get absolutely crunched. That's not something that every QB has. You look at, the QBs outside Trevor Lawrence, you look at Zach Wilson, you look at Justin Fields, you look at Trey Lance, they're runners, they're scramblers. If that's coming, they're not going to stand in there and throw the touchdown. They're going to run. They're going to try and use their mobility, their legs, and make a play. Whereas Mac Jones just kind of has that extra intangible.
Well, I just want to point out that Fields is much more of a pocket QB than he gets credit for, because he does break out occasionally and take those open Fields, but he really moves around to create more time to throw. He doesn't really immediately pull the ball down and run. I got to give the kid credit for that. He is much more of a pocket QB than he gets credit for, at least when I looked at him. Hey guys, this is all great. We got 5 minutes to go. The first pick comes up. I want to swing it around the room. Hit you, Tom. Okay, we're talking about a certain QB that may or may not go up, or he may face the precipitous drop. I won't say an Aaron Rodgers drop, because Aaron Rodgers was expected to go 1 or 2 maybe, and then he dropped. So that's a different animal. But if Justin Fields does, if Zach Wilson does not go number 2,
I think that would be. I definitely think that would be a surprise.
Okay, and it would be a surprise. That is not what people are expecting. I get that. But let's just say that it happens. I'm not asking you to judge whether it's a good pick or not. Basically, Mac Jones goes right there. All right. How does that affect what comes after it? Because all of a sudden, boom, 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 San Francisco, they're going to take Zach Wilson probably, right? Without even blinking, right?
I would say so.
And then what do the Atlanta Falcons do? My goodness.
I think the consensus is the Atlanta Falcons will draft Pitt, tight end from Florida. We'll see what happens though, because I think Pitts is the best.
What if they had Justin Fields sitting there?
You have Matt Ryan at quarterback. Out of all the teams that are picking 1, 2, 3, and 4, Matt Ryan actually has been to a Super Bowl. And if you're looking at this too, you got Julio Jones still at.
But if you can do it to Aaron Rodgers, you can do it to Matt Ryan.
You don't think Atlanta's taking a quarterback, Tom?
No.
I'm just saying if Justin Fields was there, or wouldn't you trade down probably to a team that wanted to trade up for Justin Fields if they were looking for it?
If I'm Atlanta, because Atlanta does need a lot, they do have some good building blocks. Julio Jones can still take over a game at wide receiver. Matt Ryan is still, out of any of the teams, I think in the top 10 off the top of my head, he's still serviceable, to say the least.
He's entering the new prime, right? 36 to 40, that's the new NFL prime.
Yes. And I think too, if you're Atlanta, you have a lot of needs. And if someone's going to overpay, remember, if someone's coming up to 4, they're going to have to overpay for that. And I definitely can see the Falcons taking advantage of that going forward. But I think you would need something crazy where, like you mentioned before, where, the Jets don't draft Wilson out of BYU, which I don't think is going to happen. So you need something crazy like that to occur, to say the least. I still see Atlanta sticking with Matt Ryan. None of these quarterbacks outside of Trevor Lawrence really have me saying this is the future of my franchise, to say the least. And I think you're going to get a lot of teams that are going to overpay for that. And if you're in the 4 spot and Atlanta gets a good enough deal, you definitely pull the trigger on that trade.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a trade down at some point based upon what happens with these quarterbacks at the top. But look, we're 2 minutes out, which is just so damn exciting. I mean, it really is. So before we get into our pick segment rotation, which for the people watching, you're really going to like it. We're going to rotate around and give you some really nice takes on the picks and the teams and the fits and the fantasy implications. That's right. We're going to get into fantasy right now. What do you guys think? And Josh, let's hit you up first, man. You've been sitting there working hard. I'm going to pull you off social media for a moment.
Okay. I got everything ready. Sorry.
Out of the top 10, who's going to be the player that's going to drop?
Oh, that is an interesting question. Okay. Out of the top 10, the player that's going to drop.
See, I think it's going to be one of the wide receivers because of numbers, because there's 3 top wide receivers, right?
What do you think of Jamar? Maybe Jaylen Waddle out of Alabama coming. I mean, see, the thing is, and we talked about it in the green room a little bit, guys. This is such an interesting draft, because we really talked about teams maybe drafting for need this year as opposed to the best player. And if there's a need by a team and the other team doesn't necessarily need it, I think we could see a lot of movement on the draft board. this year, up or down, kind of divvying out some picks. There's a lot of teams that don't really have picks. I mean, the Los Angeles Rams don't have a first round pick, but that's kind of the Rams fashion to do anyway. It didn't stop them from creating a beautiful draft home in Malibu. Oh my God. Wish I was there right now instead of this backdrop. I'd be at the pool. But, for the top 10, I don't think we're going to really see that many people fall out, or even if you could call it a fallout, because, even if you maybe went down the list a little bit, if, say somebody, drafted Micah Kaiser or, one of the wide receivers that you're talking about, maybe out of maybe place for some draft experts, I don't think that it would be over the top or anything.
All right, Tom, what do you think? I mean, if we could possibly get 4 to 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 10 even. I mean, won't that drive some talent down the boards? I mean, Micah Parsons, who many thought was going to be the best player in the draft, he could easily drop out of the top 15 even.
Yeah, I think with Micah Parsons, though, that might be more.
There's reasons, yeah.
There's other reasons, to say the least. When you're being sued at Penn State, something really bad is going wrong, because Penn State isn't the most upstanding institution, to say the least, in certain situations. I really think, for some reason, Penei Sewell's name pops up. The reason why is if there is going to be a rush on quarterbacks, maybe one of the teams that does need a tackle will trade down because they think Penei Sewell will be available. It's also going to be interesting too what happens with Jamar Chase, because he hasn't played, and I want to see if the players who opted out for this past college season are still top 10 picks, and will that cause a trend going forward where players who are projected to be first round picks are like, you know what, I'm going to learn from Jaylen Smith. Why do I mention Jaylen Smith's name? And the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State, he was supposed to be a top 10, maybe a top 5 pick.
He's never been the same.
Never's been the same. Blows out his knee, and be like, listen, if I'm a top 10, projected top 10 pick, I'm going to stay at home. I'm not going to waste that money. Or I'm not going to lose that money. So I wonder if this could be a trend going forward.
Well, for somebody like Penei Sewell, it might cost him a little bit, but I don't think it's going to cost him a lot, just because he's a generational talent. But for some of the other ones that dropped, that opted out, let's look at Caleb Farley, guys like, not Caleb, but, some of these defenders that are picked to go in the mid to late first round, they could easily drop into the second round for that reason. But yes. I don't think so. Just because COVID was there. I mean, and there's so little film. As long as they put up good film in 2019, I don't think it's really going to affect them. Now, if they didn't put up good film and they had no way to show that they improved, then yeah, I think we got an issue. All right, look, the NFL draft is up. The clock has started for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they have 10 minutes to make a pick. And oh my goodness, who knows exactly what it's going to be. Let's work down through the rotation. This is how we're going to do it for every pick coming up. First up for the top 10 picks, Mr. Tom McAllister. Fill us in on the team needs for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Could you, sir?
Yes. So going back to the Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously you'd have to say they have a lot of needs, because you know what? They only won one game. The biggest one to start out with will be quarterback. Other needs they have will be tight end and tackle. I really think there really aren't any dynamic players at either of those positions, or those positions aren't as deep as they were, especially offensive tackle. I think offensive tackle, the 2020 draft was a lot deeper. They also need help at safety and wide receiver. So this will be interesting too if they try to get Trevor Lawrence and either decide to pair him up with an offensive tackle. We'll see if Rashawn Slater will be available in the second round, or maybe Jacksonville has the 25th pick in the first round. You got to see if Rashawn Slater is available, or maybe a wide receiver drops to 25. But I definitely think if you're Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars, you'll try to pair up Trevor Lawrence with either an offensive lineman or a wide receiver.
All right. Well, that's the team needs. And at that point, we're going to work it around the room a little bit and talk about projected picks for this. And of course, Josh, you're up leading on this, and the projected pick is really not a secret, is it?
It is not a secret if it's not already confirmed 100% that it will be Trevor Lawrence to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, obviously, no surprise. Clemson quarterback, top rated since high school. The only problem for him is going to be going to Jacksonville and actually having to lose games, as he hasn't lost one in his high school or college career. And it might be a little bit of a slow rebuild for the Jaguars, even with this pick.
You know, with that in mind, Tom, could the unthinkable happen here? Jacksonville has been playing it very close to the vest. They don't need one player to get to the Super Bowl. They need a complete team rebuild. Do you get the QB first, or do you build the team first, then get the QB? Should they trade down here?
No, I think, Trevor Lawrence is that generational talent. There are a lot of people out there. Granted, you could probably get a king's ransom for Trevor Lawrence, but there are so many quarterbacks that I think you can't make that move with Jacksonville. I think you get the quarterback and you build around the quarterback.
Well, not only that, right now it only costs you a first-round draft pick. If you try to get back here down the road, it's going to cost you a boatload, right?
Yes, and I think any NFL executive would pick Trevor Lawrence and then try to address it going forward. When you look at Jacksonville, they do have another first-round pick coming later on in the draft at 25. They also got the 13th pick and the first pick in the second round. So they got 4 picks in the first round and second round. So I definitely think you can address multiple needs with that. And I think that's something to look at going forward. It's almost the thing that's going to be more interesting will be what Jacksonville does with those other picks. Could they combine all of them and trade up? Or will they just try to, get talent and address those needs elsewhere? Because I really think with the 25th pick and overall and the first pick in the second round, the Jacksonville Jaguars will be able to address either their offensive tackle or wide receiver position, if not both.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment, especially at those two positions. Wide receivers should not be a problem just because of the numbers. I think that's one of the deepest positions in the draft. And strangely enough, offensive tackle, there is a lot of talent there. If you need an offensive tackle, a guy on the outside, right or left side, it doesn't matter. There is talent to be had all through this draft, rounds 1 through 7, in my opinion. Josh, what do you think about this? When you look at a guy and say, this is a generational talent, all right, he can make all the throws, but what have you heard about Trevor Lawrence and how he is off the field? I mean, Jimmy Johnson always said, and Bill Belichick agrees with him, when you're talking to a player and you say, what are the 3 most important things in your life? Football better be one of those 3. All right. So, for some people, it's not. And you can just tell when they play, they're not really dedicated. They'll last a few years and then they just trail off. This guy, from what I understand, he's a gym rat. He loves the game. He's a student. He ticks all those boxes. What have you heard?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And he's a student of the game. He's one of the guys, he's in the gym. He's not skipping up on that stuff. He's watching film. He's learning stuff. He's studying defenses. He's not going to be a Lamar Jackson where he can only have one read, if that. He's going to be coming in and he's going to be learning as much as he can under hopefully Urban Meyer and the new Jacksonville organization, whatever it will be. But I don't think we're going to have any problems with Trevor Lawrence on or off the field when it comes to, caliber of player or motivation when it comes to that. I kind of want to break into something that I'm just seeing here reported by Mark Schlereth on 1043 The Fan, that the Denver Broncos will not be taking the QB this draft as they are close to trading for Aaron Rodgers per his sources, as close to the deal could be in quotation marks. So we will wait and see if anything comes of that. But a little bit of rumblings coming out of the NFL that maybe Aaron Rodgers is off to Denver.
Also, I would like to add right now, I'm looking at a tweet from Aaron Rodgers from his verified account. He has 4 words to say. Beautiful day in Denver. So there you go. Well, it's still the first pick of the NFL draft. They're going to take their whole entire 10 minutes. I'm certain that they are waiting to see if the phone rings with an incredible deal. But I think the Aaron Rodgers conversation is kind of taking over the league as they're holding their breath to see what's going to be happening right there with him. And man, that could change what happens here in the top 10 as well, because what happens with the Broncos pick there, they won't have that pick anymore at number 9. The Cowboys have to be wondering what the heck is going on there.
Well, I guess we all know Aaron Rodgers won't be going to Jeopardy and taking over full time. At least we got that taken care of. But this is something.
Not if he's going to Denver. No.
If Aaron Rodgers does go to Denver, you get Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers, I believe, twice a year. And I think it does make sense if you're the Green Bay Packers, if you're trading Aaron Rodgers, be like, you know what? We'll trade you. We'll trade you so you get to face, Patrick Mahomes twice a year. And we'll get a top 10 pick. And it'll be interesting too, because I always would compliment the Green Bay Packers saying, they had Brett Favre, they made the shrewd decision in drafting Aaron Rodgers, and they didn't have any drop off like some teams have. This is going to be very interesting to see the least going forward, and how far away. Well, I mean, the Denver Broncos did play a game without a quarterback last year, and they're still waiting for the quarterback since John Elway. So this is definitely going to be interesting if that trade goes through.
See, now these are, like I said, these are just initial rumblings that are coming on.
They're called rumors.
They're called rumors. It's NFL draft day, baby. We've been waiting for a long time. But this
rumor is confirmed by Aaron Rodgers himself.
Oh,
okay. I mean, from his Twitter account, when he's going to flow that in about beautiful day in Denver, you can read between the lines there. You don't have to be a genius. All right, back to the pick. The clock is ticking down on here. It's 5:12 p.m. They have to make the pick. They have to make it now. The first pick of the NFL draft 2021. Looks like it's going to be here. The Jags fans are going nuts. And man, I have to say, they got to be excited because, technically, I guess you don't have to have an elite QB to win in the NFL, but it sure helps.
I totally agree. A lot of people think Patrick Mahomes ruined the NFL because everyone thinks you can just get a quarterback that great, and everyone has been making a run on quarterbacks. It's not just this draft. It seems like the only draft when there wasn't a run on quarterbacks was 2019. And you had Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, Jared Goff. I mean, and then here he gets traded. Okay.
There's always been, that run on quarterbacks the last few seasons. And it looks like it's happening again this year. And it seems like that's something where the franchises, instead of waiting around and trying to find the right fit, they try to invest a lot of capital and get that one stud, that one person where a lot of people think, can turn around the franchise. But a lot of these teams, it hasn't worked out. Remember I believe the Bears traded up for Mitchell Trubisky. How did that turn out, to say the least?
There's a lot of those trade ups recently, especially, that have not worked out. And boy, there was this strong consensus that you have to trade up, to get that. But I tell you right now, there is going to be a QB taken. And the NFL is milking every second. You can't tell that there's supposed to be a 10-minute clock on this, okay? That has been suspended. We're already to, a quarter past or something like this. No pick has been made. They have everybody socially distanced out on the stage, all right? Everybody's about 6 feet apart. And which doesn't really look like 6 feet because these guys are all like 6'4", 6'6", whatever. I mean, they are big men. People don't realize Roger Goodell is not a little guy. He just looks like a little guy, with these guys out there. It's pretty exciting. You mentioned that this is a generational talent. And Tom, we've been around watching this for quite a.
Drew Luck did have a solid NFL career. If he stayed healthy and didn't retire early, it would have been interesting to see how far he would have gone. But I definitely think Trevor Lawrence is one of those people you need to go out and you need to pick him with the first pick. And you just need to write him out no matter who. This is one of the times where if this was maybe in the 1980s with David Gettleman, you just put the phone off the hook where basically people call you, but it's going to be a busy signal. So I definitely think that's the move you have to make. And then you go from there, because Jacksonville, they do have a lot of, draft capital this year, and they can quickly turn around the team if they get the right fits. Now you just got to decide, does Jacksonville build up the offensive side first or defensive side? And I think if you're getting Trevor Lawrence, you want to get the offensive weapons first.
Well, yeah, I would go, like you were alluding earlier, offensive line. You want to protect the kid. I mean, he's already proven he can come back from injury, but you don't want that to be, a regular thing, right?
You want to protect your investment, and you got to wonder too, will the Jacksonville Jaguars go out and just focus on the offensive line going forward? Because they do have multiple needs. Do you go skill position or do you go for the trenches? Because I think there's no dynamic pass rusher that I can say in this draft. Wide receivers, there's a few. I don't see them being available when Jacksonville drafts next up. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
I hate to interrupt. Well, love to interrupt here, actually. As Goodell had just made the statement that the NFL draft is officially open. It looks like they opened it at the at 15 minutes after. And they were just beginning their TV presentation at the top of the hour.
You got way
not
too
be
excited.
Surprised at this. So within 10 minutes, we should have it. They've actually brought up a fan who won like some type of lottery or something that is going to announce the pick. I love it when they do that. I think that's fantastic to give a man a shot to do something like that.
That was cool to see. Yeah, bringing her up. I had to get the closed caption settings on my TV because I have it muted, so I couldn't actually hear what they were saying and announcing her. I don't know. Did you guys notice? Was she like a healthcare worker or something like that, or she just won the Jacksonville Jaguar Best Fan Award and gets to sit up on the draft day table?
I don't know. I think she won a lotto as a fan that would look the best with their hands on their face going, oh, okay. So no, she just looked like somebody that was really excited for being selected.
Listen, the important thing is that when my team drafts a player, I do not overreact whatsoever.
Never do
that.
And with the 6th pick of the NFL draft, the New York Giants take David Jones at QB.
At least he's better than Haskins. At least he's still on the team.
He's still on the team. You could say, that's better than like Goff, right?
That's like 3 golf shots. We've been on for 40.
What can I say? I've been working on my
minutes.
golf game.
I was gonna say, I tweeted out that the pun per 60 on our draft live show is off the charts with you, Van, but the Jared Goff slander per 60 is off the charts.
Don't worry, Josh. I got a different question to ask you. My question was, were you at the Battle of the Joshes last week?
Oh, unfortunately I missed that one. I had a Whitecaps game to cover, so I wasn't able to make it out to Nebraska. I think that Lincoln, Nebraska is where it was held, and bring my my pool noodle and get it on that. But it was a well-deserving young Josh that won it. But
all right. Okay, at least we all know.
I missed out.
Okay, at least we all know you're a coward. Anywho, I had to bring that up. Had to.
This 6 minutes and 35 seconds is not going to go by fast enough if we're going to get Josh and Jared Goff slander. JG and JG. Jared Goff, Josh Griffith.
And Twitter right now, that is what is trending. It's not Aaron Rodgers. It's not anything about Trevor Lawrence. What's trending is, when are they going to pick? This is ridiculous. and I have to agree. It's like, come on, man. You're going to make the half hour almost, and they're going to drag it out for commercials, I believe. That's good. This kid deserves, I think, all the plaudits he can get. After him, there's going to be another QB taken. We're not 100% certain who it's going to be, but there is going to be another one taken, possibly 4 QBs in the first 5 picks.
That will definitely be interesting, and it's a big if Aaron Rodgers does get traded to Denver. You got to think that first round pick is going to Green Bay. And what is Green Bay going to do? Do they have enough confidence in Jordan Love? I just love the storyline. I mean, I wonder if there's a team in like another division that made a controversial quarterback pick. Can you think of any? You know,
well,
did
you
they
know, not
go? Did they
only
go and fly away? Or I really.
well, but the karma wheel too, because you got Brett Favre,
Mhm.
and then they bring in Aaron Rodgers behind him, and then Aaron Rodgers has the drop, and then all that happened, and then you have Jordan Love. They bring in and do the same thing to Aaron Rodgers that that they did to Brett Favre. So at this point, why not draft somebody right now and tell Jordan, like Love, say, look, why make you wait 6, 7, 10 years? We're just going to do it to you right now.
Listen, all I got to say is my favorite pass by Brett Favre was the pass to Corey Webster in the NFC Championship game that let the Giants basically win the NFC Championship, and then I think they won the next game too. So,
all right, guys, we talked about the QBs ad nauseum. We're going to be talking about them some more. Real quick here, not a QB, best guy in the NFL Draft 2021. What do you got, Tom McAllister?
I'll go with, I'm going to go with Jamar Chase, wide receiver from LSU. I think he's a throwback wide receiver, and since he's going to be at a skill position, you're going to see those numbers. Sewell from Oregon, he could be a great tackle, but unless he's making the Pro Bowl, you really won't know it, or if you're checking Pro Football Focus every week. But I really think, that wide receiver from LSU is just he just has that big body, 6'5". He can overpower the cornerbacks. And that's a threat you don't see as much in wide receiver anymore, because a lot of them, like the Kansas City Chiefs, they prefer to go for speed. And I think that'll just be a totally different dynamic and a more difficult dynamic. It's just, he has a larger catch radius, and I think he can make a massive impact if he goes to the right team.
Joshua, what do you got, man? Who's your best player in the draft that's not a QB?
Well, somebody who's got a little bit of size, a little bit of height, but is also a wide receiver / tight end. And I think we're going to see him in a slot wide receiver position is Kyle Pitts. So he's dynamic guy, 43 grabs for 770 yards in the 2020 season with Florida. He didn't drop a single pass. And like I said, with the emergence of the tight ends, like, George Kittle and Travis Kelce kind of moving into that slot position, I think we're really going to see him have an impact for whatever team he goes to, despite I think him actually going to be dropping in the draft a bit.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything that you say about those guys. I just want to throw in the one guy that a lot of people want to discount, which is, Penei Sewell. I've looked at his reps as a 19-year-old, and he was just dominating. I mean, he was man among boys, and he's just built so beautifully. He's got every metric that you want. He's just 20 years old, and he's had a year off, and during that year, he's been just shaving that body, making it better and better. He's been in the gym. He's been working. Would it have been better for him to get those reps? Yeah, but I think he's the same generational talent, just not a QB, that Trevor Lawrence is. He ticks all the boxes. He really, really does. But man, I cannot discount what Tom says about, players that opted out for 2020. What is it going to hit them? It already is. It's hit them. I mean, I think any other year they'd be talking about taking this guy number one.
You can definitely go with that. It also depends on needs. To say the least. So, for example, if this was the Arizona Cardinals drafting again, I can definitely see Sewell going number one overall, or a team.
All right. Well, the pick has been made. I'm going to break it in here. Trevor Lawrence has been made. The New York Jets are on the clock. The Jacksonville Jaguars pick is in. So it's being rolled over. The pick hasn't been announced, but it is in. They're sitting there holding it, and the announcers aren't allowed to say anything, even though they know. So that's pretty exciting. The New York Jets, I think that the New York Jets make this the most exciting second pick of the draft in many years, because they're the Jets. You don't know what they're going to do, man. You really don't. You may think what is smart to do, But that doesn't matter. It's the New York Jets. They are an accident waiting to happen. Nobody knows what the New York Jets are going to do in this situation. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with that?
I think even though I'm a Giants fan, I do have friends that are Jets fans, and they're very loyal. They've been with them the ups and downs. They still wear their Jets gear. And honestly, I think if the Jets make the right selection, they've reached for quarterbacks in earlier rounds before. If they do make the right selection, which we all say is quarterback this upcoming season, and I think it needs to be. So I think, Zach Wilson goes with the Jets' first pick, which is number 2 overall. And I think when you get down to 23, it's going to be interesting to see if they want to go with the running back, like Travis Etienne or Najee Harris. I think that could be an interesting selection going forward because, the Jets selected Mekhi Becton, and he had a solid year at tackle. And I really think if you get that running back wide receiver combo and you also get them under rookie contracts and you strengthen up that offensive line, because the Jets are pretty solid at tackle going forward, and there's really no one at defensive end.
Trevor Lawrence is a Jacksonville Jaguar. Okay. Yeah. Joshua, I got to ask you, I think the biggest problem he has to face, and I think it could be an issue, is, he played at Clemson. Are they going to accept him down there in Florida, man? I mean, there are some vile rivalries between those guys.
Yes, there is. But I think that when Florida fans look at his 3,153 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 169.2 QB rating, I think they're going to fall in love with Trevor Lawrence as their franchise QB down in Jacksonville. So I don't think that will be any problem. And like we've all been talking about, alluding to, the Jacksonville Jaguars, of course, take Trevor Lawrence first overall pick. I mean, what else are you going to say? Well, I don't know why they had to make us wait the whole 10 minutes.
Well,
actually, I do, but yeah, we won't get into that.
All right. Well, something we didn't really break into, Tom, talk to us about the team fit here. And we didn't really talk about it that much because, it's a new coach. We don't really know exactly what he's going to do, but how do you envision Trevor Lawrence fitting into the Jacksonville Jaguars, more specifically, the NFL?
I think you'd have to look at this and you'd have to say with Urban Meyer's offense, he kind of ran something I think that's somewhat similar to what they ran at Clemson. I did read on the ESPN graphic where it stated how Trevor Lawrence is already familiar or getting familiar with the Jacksonville playbook. I would say the question is, Trevor Lawrence starting week 1, I guess you got to go for it. If you're Jacksonville, you want to get the baptism by fire and see if this person can deliver. So you got to go for it. I do think he's the fit. There's no one else you would really pick. If you put probably the last 10 years, the only other person who I might take over Trevor Lawrence out of college, knowing what I know, would be Andrew Luck. And I really think, we'll see if he can turn around Jacksonville. If he does.
But I wouldn't give him a super long contract. I'm just saying. Okay.
Of course not.
All right. I mean, it's a fantastic pick all the way around. He fits the team. He fits the scheme. It's got to be a perfect fit because they're going to make it fit him. I mean, that's the only reason you draft somebody like that. You're not going to draft a guy and then say, oh, by the way, we're going to turn you into this, a wildcat quarterback or some crap like that. You're going to make your team fit this guy. I think that's going to work just great. What do you think is the best aspect about this pick, Josh?
I think it's just the whole aspect of a new start. You bring in a new coach, you bring in Urban Meyer, you draft Trevor Lawrence. You're basically saying, okay, we had kind of something going on in 2017, 2018, and we're going with Blake Bortles and that, and Jalen Ramsey when he was a Jaguar, but that's all past, and they need to kind of make a new name for themselves. And I think that this is a perfect fit, like we talked about earlier. The guy's character on and off the field is, top level. And I think he's just going to resonate with Jacksonville Jaguar fans and be something that they can kind of set a rock on for the future.
All right, well, let's take a fantasy moment here. I'm going to report quickly on that. And the fantasy impact here is huge. Why? This guy's going to put up numbers. He can do it a lot of different ways. He's not afraid of the spotlight. And I think trying to make it's safe for him is a big mistake. This kid needs to score. He needs to move around. I think he's a QB that you're going to take in the second tier of QBs in fantasy moving forward, which is darn exciting. But hey, let's actually move on. I'm going to set up the next pick coming up. And before we do that real quick, Tom, what grade do you give this pick? A, B, C, D, what?
For Trevor Lawrence, I got to go with that. I got to go with an A.
A. Josh, what do you got?
Well, yeah, it's an A because they didn't screw it up.
Yeah, I'm calling it an A plus, not because they didn't screw it up, and because I agree with Tom, it is a generational talent. But now we move on, and on the clock right now are the New York Jets. And I tell you what, I'm very happy that the Jags did well. Can the Jets do the same thing? They say the pick is in. And I'd like to point out that insofar as QBs, Zach Wilson actually graded out better than Trevor Lawrence on a lot of measurables. I mean, all the way across the board. He is a solid pick. This should be who the Jets take. I don't know about that. Tom, what do you think? Insofar as what the Jets need, what are the Jets' biggest need? QB, right?
Yes. QB is the biggest need because they traded away Sam Darnold in the offseason. Also, they need help at running back, cornerback, offensive guard, and defensive end. Looking at this, at what's available, running back, you probably don't get in the first half of the first round. Cornerback, there's no cornerback talent available that's probably worth the number 2 pick this year. Offensive guard very rarely goes this high. Defensive end, there's not someone worthy of the number 2 pick. So I definitely think you got to go with the quarterback. You got to go with Zach Wilson from BYU. It would make sense, and you'd have to have faith in the Jets front office to pull this off. And as we see Roger Goodell walking to the podium to make the announcement, I'm pretty sure if this was in New York, the Jets fans would be responding to Roger Goodell.
Well, yeah, they'd be telling him what a great guy he is because the Jets, that's how they rock. They're just somewhere in the neighborhood of Philly fans. So yeah, it is what it is. This is exciting all the way around. This should be a new future for the Jets. Zach Wilson is the real deal. I think this is great for Darnold as well, the old Jets QB, because he gets a new start after the trade. This is a win-win, but they need to not screw this up. Did they get the pick in time? They did. Thank you. And Zach Wilson is the New York Jet, I do believe. Drum roll, please. Yes. We need the Christmas vacation drum roll, right? QB Zach Wilson, BYU.
Maybe what we can get, Van, is some of the Jet fans at home to maybe comment on that YouTube box to let us know what they think about the New York Jets drafting Zach Wilson.
Oh yeah, that would be great. All right, Jets fans at home, both of you. Okay, I'd like one of you. I'd like one of you to. I think Jets fans are some of the strongest, and Jets fans. It's like, if you were a Cleveland Browns fan, like anywhere from Bernie Kosar on forward, you're a stud. All right. I mean, you've gone through some bad times and you're still a fan. I got nothing but respect for you. You are not a fair weather fan.
Yes.
So, props to you and yours. All right, let's work around. Josh, talk to us about this pick right here. Break down the player, break down the pick.
Well, obviously, we all knew when Sam Darnold was traded from the Jets that they were going to go with the quarterback route. Zach Wilson was kind of that one that just fell into the spot. Brigham Young University, and just putting up phenomenal numbers there. as a freshman, as a junior, sorry, as a as a QB, as a sophomore and a junior. It just seemed like the right pick for them. 36,092 yards, 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Not too shabby.
But the only thing is the Jets do this every year. We saw this with Sam Darnold, and he was a young quarterback that decided to move away from. And if the Jets aren't going to be able to fix things from an organizational structure, from an offensive coordinator structure, from a head coaching structure, then this guy might just be thrown into the wolves once again.
New Jersey, where QBs go to die. Tom, what is the QB fit? All right, for the team, the Jets, we know what they got. Is this guy the solution to the problems? Because, I mean, come on, Darnold, was he that bad?
I really think with Darnold, was he given a fair shake? That's definitely going to be a question. He didn't have the best weapons around him. If you're the Jets organization, you have to say basically Zach Wilson is going to be the guy that leads the Jets to the playoffs. A lot of it, you can't blame Darnold. There was a lot of changes when he was there, even though he was in New York for a short time. I think you need stability on top of the organization. If you keep on going through general managers or vice presidents of operations, whatever you want to call it, if you keep on going through those chief executives, the issue that arrives is those chief executives, those general managers, the first thing they want to do is get their own quarterback. They don't want to stay with the old quarterback. They want to get their new quarterback, unless they are a multiple Super Bowl winner. So this is something where the Jets do need stability. I think if there's stability in the front office, that will come onto the field, and that's where it will show. But, the Jets, they continuously kept on, I think, reaching in previous drafts for draft picks. This draft, they had the number 2 pick overall. They made a trade to get the pick. They have to have faith in that Zach Wilson's better than Sam Darnold. It's also going to be interesting too. Sam Darnold right now controls the narrative. If he goes to his new team and he's able to, become a divisional winner, win some playoff games, then I think that will definitely change the narrative for him. But I think it's something too where something wasn't right and we didn't know what it was, and the Jets decided to go somewhere else. So, and I think Darnold, he can do well in Carolina. He probably has some more weapons if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy. And it's going to be interesting to say the least.
Grade this pick real quick.
I'll give it a B, just because I think the Jets did give up some things to move up. But it is a need. It was the best available quarterback. And when you look at all the other talent available at the positions that the Jets do need, the quarterback talent was the one that best fit, I think.
And Josh, real quick, what's your grade on this?
I'm not grading Jets draft picks.
Okay. Incomplete. Okay.
No. Yeah, well, wait. Yeah, talk to me when they trade him in 2 years.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm looking at him from a fantasy perspective. All right. I'm just going to throw that in. This is, again, a QB you have to look at. Is he going to have a Justin Herbert type effect, which makes him a viable tier 3, tier 2 QB? Hard to say. Unlike Justin Herbert, I don't think that the Jets have talent around him to help him out. At wide receiver, they're trying to revive Corey Davis. That's the guy that they're going to try and set up with him. Jamison Crowder, okay. Braxton Berrios, he's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of talent, but these aren't great players around him. So, and the offensive line is what it is. So he's going to have to learn some things. There's going to be some growing pains. But if they go ahead and continue to draft some talent to put around him, this could get very interesting from a fantasy perspective. All right, let's break it down right now, because on the clock now is San Francisco. They gave up a ton to get up here. But I mean, especially when you consider Jimmy Garoppolo, all right, and then now he's all but gone. He's all but out the door. They're going to go QB right here is what everybody says. But, man, you just never know. It's the NFL draft. So it's going to be what it is. Tom, what are the team needs here for this pick?
Well, I think when you look at the San Francisco 49ers going forward, they had a lot of injuries last year. But, you can look at it too. They need offensive guard and defensive tackle, which I think is something you probably don't need to get right now. They also need safety, which I think you can pick up quality down in the draft. Usually a second round is an optimum time to pick up a safety. They also need a QB and a wide receiver. This draft is deep in wide receiver, and you're not trading up to get a wide receiver, especially as far as San Francisco did. So I think they're most likely going quarterback. Which quarterback will dictate if there's any more trades going forward and who selects who. This is the pick that will dictate and influence a lot of teams in their reactions, to say the least. As Roger Goodell is making the walkout once again.
Oh, yeah, well, the pick is in, so it's going to be very interesting, like you say. And I don't think it's necessarily Justin Fields. I think Trey Lance is in the mix here as well. Mac Jones could be in the mix, but I think he's a guy that's going to come in the middle of the first round.
Wow.
Yeah, the pick is in.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, is it official yet?
yes, it is.
Trey Lance.
Okay, so I was right. Okay, cool. Wow, let's Josh, break down this pick. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Trey Lance and let's put him up on the big screen there. And I'm sure the engineer's going, Trey Lance, where did I put that crap?
Trey Lance, yes, North Dakota State quarterback. Interesting pick, as most people had them pegged to go with Mac Jones, but what can you say? I mean, obviously they moved up, and Kyle Shanahan had this player that he wanted to pick. In 16 games last year, 192 completions and 287 attempts, 2,786 yards, 28 touchdowns, and count them, 0 interceptions. So it looks like Kyle Shanahan has moved into NFL 2.0, 3.0 with the rest of the league, and wanting to get kind of more of than a system quarterback, as that's kind of what Trey Lance can provide.
Yeah, I really think when I look at this selection, the one advantage Trey Lance has that Fields and Lawrence do not have is the San Francisco 49ers are primarily a running offense. So they have been able to successfully last year rush for 200 yards multiple times. If you have a strong running game, that makes the life of the quarterback that much easier. And I think Trey Lance, since he comes in here and they're already able to establish the run game, I do think he'll have an easy adjustment or easier adjustment to NFL than Field or Lawrence going forward, at least in year one. We'll see how those quarterbacks develop down the line.
Well, and then what's the other best friend of a QB, a new QB? A tight end that you can rely on. Oh, what does San Francisco have? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, a Kittle. They've got a Kittle of reasons for him to be happy. And from a fantasy perspective, let me go ahead and bounce on out to that and talk about the fantasy moment right here. The fantasy perspective here is freaking huge. This is an awesome pick. I read this pick A+, A+, A+. This is great. It's bold. If you're going to give up what they did, if you're going to do what they did, you don't draft up here and take Mac Jones. I didn't think it was. I think it was going to be Fields or Trey Lance, but I love Trey Lance. He's the most physically gifted QB of the group. This guy can do it all. His arm is just unbelievable. He can throw it all the way down the field from all sorts of positions. He's got that Mahomes-ness in his arm, absolutely. And he is the real deal, but he'll stay in the pocket. He looks downfield. This kid is great, and the lack of turnovers shows that he makes good decisions. Does he need NFL grooming? Of course he does. Every QB does that's not named Dan Marino. That's just the fact of life. This is a fantastic pick. I put this guy in the top of the second tier of QBs that you should be looking at as a freaking rookie. Wow.
Okay, well, I want to know what you guys think. Do the San Francisco 49ers move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, or does he sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo on the bench and learn for a couple seasons?
What you said.
I think this is going to be interesting to see if San Francisco does move Jimmy G, to say the least. Would Jimmy G go back to New England? That's a possibility. What if San Francisco, well, they said Aaron Rodgers is going to Denver. That hasn't been confirmed. What if they do send maybe Trey Lance to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers or something along those lines? That could potentially happen since we haven't heard confirmation about Aaron Rodgers.
No way Green Bay is going to let them make the pick and then trade for it after. If Green Bay wanted that number 3 and we're going to trade Aaron Rodgers to the 49ers, they would have done it so they had control of the pick.
It's still blowing my mind. Trey Lance is a 49er. I mean, this is great. I mean, especially when you look at the last QB to take them to a Super Bowl. Ooh, okay. Yeah.
and then too, this makes things interesting, right? So where do the other QB pieces fall? Because I had the top 4 picks being quarterbacks.
And see, this is what I was saying. We could get 4 to 5 QBs that go in the top 10. I mean, this is driving some stuff down. But right now, let's talk about it. Atlanta is on the clock. Okay. And with that in mind, Tom, talk to us about their team needs. I'm guessing QB is not one of them because you bit my head off in the green room about no. Okay.
Yes, I did. Listen, I'm here to state my opinion, and my opinion is what you're going to get. So when you look at Atlanta, their needs, they need help at cornerback, tight end, offensive, outside linebacker, and running back. I think, Pitts is probably the move to make when you look at the talent available and the selection. There's no real outside linebacker that stands out. Running back, there isn't that generational talent up there. Usually running backs, you go for the bottom of the first half or bottom of the first round, if not the second round. So I think Pitts makes sense unless Atlanta makes a trade. That's the only thing I can see going forward. Which you got to wonder, if you're Atlanta and you heard that Trey Lance call, you might be picking up some phone calls because if you still want to get Kyle Pitts, you could probably still be available a little bit later in the top 10, to say the least.
Yeah, with that in mind, if Atlanta actually keeps this pick, they're not going to make it till the last moment because they're waiting for that phone to ring. I absolutely agree with that. This is going to be just exciting all the way around. Joshua, why don't you take us and talk to us about who the projected pick is going to be? The consensus pick, of course, at this point would be possibly Kyle Pitts, right?
Kyle Pitts, absolutely. That was kind of the consensus pick going into the draft for the Atlanta Falcons. There was some maybe rumblings that they might take on a QB, but Matt Ryan has some years left in his contract. They have Julio Jones. They, could still necessarily turn it around and make a run. The pick is in. It will be interesting. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is the right one. We've talked about him before. He can play some slot. He can play, traditional tight end. But let's see what Atlanta does.
Picks in.
Roll, please. Well, the Atlanta fans, both of them are there, and they're very excited.
And there it is. Yes, Kyle Pitts from Florida.
Okay, I got to say that is just a very sweet pick. They didn't screw it up, man. Josh, go ahead and break down Kyle Pitts. Who is he? What does he bring to the fore here?
So, obviously, like I said, tight end out of Florida. Last year, 8 games, played 43 receptions, 770 yards, and 12 touchdowns. He's the kind of player that, is going to be a big target in the red zone, and with Julio Jones and Matt Ryan and some of the other weapons in the Atlanta offense, they might be a little bit aging, but if you're going to tell me that Matt Ryan and Julio Jones still can't get it done,
he's just a big target.
He is a big target. He's a big boy, and he knows how to play football too, which is good. Like he can't, not just catching the ball, 6'6", 240, not just a big frame. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to run the routes properly. He knows how to sit in a zone, in a soft zone. He knows how to find those little spots. Kyle Pitts is there's a reason that he went first after quarterbacks is because he's probably the best player in the draft besides quarterbacks.
Oh, wow. Hey, he's got the exact opposite problem that the number one pick is going to have. You got a Georgia guy going to Florida there. Here you got a Florida guy going to Georgia.
Yeah.
So, so this is a lot of conflicted fans are going to be, they're going to be upset about having the wrong TV package. Okay, it's really going to mess them up. All right, Tom, what about the team fit here? How does this guy fit? First of all, he's got Matt Ryan throwing in the ball. If you're a guy that's known for catching the ball, I'd have to say that's pretty exciting, yeah?
Well, it is. And also, they have a deep wide receiver core. You mentioned Julio Jones, who still demands double teams. So you got to think, if you're Pitts, you can come in and be like, you know what? There's going to be a lot of blown coverages. I'm just going to be another weapon out there. I have an experienced quarterback. Also, I'm playing my home games indoors. So I definitely think Pitts could be lined up to have a strong rookie season in Atlanta. So I definitely like this fit. And it does fit the needs going forward, to say the least. I don't think you would go for wide receiver because I do think Atlanta does have plenty of depth there. But tight end, this is something that can change a good offense to a dynamic offense if they get a solid enough play out of Pitts.
All right, well, let's take a moment and look at the fantasy take. And there's quite a bit of fantasy take here, and you pretty much touched on it and nailed it. He's got Julio Jones out there. So not only is Julio Jones going to be attracting attention and creating mismatches just through his pure presence, also he's going to be able to learn from Julio Jones. So, he's going to be able to look over at one of the best in the league and learn and pick up stuff, which is going to make this guy more effective. However, the other thing is Hayden Hurst. They traded for him last season. Hayden Hurst blew it up. All right. He couldn't, the original team that had him couldn't afford to pay him. So they went ahead and traded him out. There could be a trade right here and moving Hayden Hurst, but I don't think so. I think this is going to be a 1-2 tight end punch that they're going to use here. So you're going to have to temper your expectations a little bit here. He's not going to get quite as many looks as he would before, but by the end of the season, he's a guy you should target and trade for, because by the end of the season, his talent's going to show through and Hayden Hurst will become an afterthought and trade bait. So that's really going to be nice all the way around. Guys, I like this all the way around. I give this pick an A as well.
I would probably give it maybe a B to a B plus. I think it fits the need. Will Pitts go out and, have a season like Jimmy Graham did several years ago with the Saints and totally revamp it? I don't think so, but I do think he upgrades a position. And it gives an offensive dynamic weapon. And also he can line up in multiple positions. He can line up at tight end, in the slot, or out wide. And I think that will be something Atlanta can use going forward.
Yeah, all the way around, I have to agree with those assessments, and especially about the way that they can and should deploy him. This guy is a Swiss Army knife. He can play a lot of different positions. And I definitely see them trying to put him out wide and seeing what he can do, because he's going to be able to key off of Julio Jones. Watch him. And also, he's going to get some single coverage out there, man. I mean, when you've got Julio on one side, you're going to get single coverage occasionally on the other side, depending upon the down distance, right?
I totally think so. And you got to wonder if you're Pitts, you got to think you're going to get a lot of red zone opportunities too. And that's where tight ends make their money.
Well, then also you've got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Okay. I mean, that's not too bad for a 1-2. Then you've got Hayden Hurst, who was blowing it up. I mean, him and Matt Ryan played really well together. Now you throw this guy in the mix who you can deploy anywhere from fullback out to wide out, anywhere in that mix. Wow, you really do get a nightmare for opposing defenses. This could be one of those years where you see a team blow up offensively. And I'm talking about Atlanta. I'm talking about Matt Ryan specifically. His fantasy numbers could go off the chart by adding this versatile piece. All right. Pardon me. Sorry about that. That pick is done. The Cincinnati Bengals pick is in. Talk about team needs for the Cincinnati Bengals real quick there, Tom.
I think there are two major needs that the Bengals have. First off, they drafted Joe Burrow last season, #1 pick. Burrow did have a solid rookie season. He did get hurt. And I do believe the Bengals will, with this pick, they will try to help out Joe Burrow. It's just, will they help him out by getting a wide receiver in Jamar Chase, or they go for an offensive lineman with Penei Sewell? So this is another opportunity to where if the Bengals go with the tackle, I still think if you're a team that wants a wide receiver, you still got a strong chance of getting a dynamic wide receiver, whether it's Chase, Waddle, or Smith from Alabama. So this is going to be an interesting pick. I think I'd probably go with the Bengals. They'd go with the Sewell because I think that's more of a need. Get that franchise tackle, and then you can address more needs going forward.
All right, Josh, talk about the possible picks here. Is it, like he said, pretty much Sewell's in the bag, or are they going to say, you know what, that offensive tackle, we think we can address that later, but there's some top tier wide receiver talent available right now?
There is, but if you are watching the NFL draft in the background of our live show, then you're seeing them scrape Joe Burrows up off the turf again and again and again. And if the Cincinnati Bengals do anything but draft Penei Sewell, then that will be a mistake for them because they need to get Joe Burrow protection. He's shown it last year that he can be a good quarterback. He can find the players. We don't know if he's going to be elite. I'm not going to throw him in any of those categories yet, but Joe Burrow looks like he could be an NFL caliber quarterback. He can't do it if he's staring down at the ground from getting smashed or looking up at the sky from getting smashed. So they need to get him some help. And I think that is the way they're going to go with this pick.
Yeah, I agree. I like what you're talking about. Where they need to go is along that offensive line. I think that Sewell is the obvious pick here, but they can get good talent and not pick him if the 2020 opt-out thing worries them. However, I believe the pick has been announced, right? Oh, no, they're just showing replays of the other ones. I'm going like, wait a minute, that looks like the QB. Yeah.
Wow. You want me to tell you?
Go for it. You got the info. Bring it in.
Jamar Chase, wide receiver.
Tom called it. Called it.
Wow. This is a little surprising to say the least.
I am also surprised by that one.
I guess there could be a run on wide receivers, I think, going forward. I think Chase would be the first wide receiver off the board. I'm a little surprised at this. So we'll see if Joe Burrow is being scraped up or down or what have you.
All right, real quick, Josh, go ahead and describe, and let's hear some stats and metrics on this guy. Okay,
well,
I mean, he's got some numbers to talk about, doesn't he?
He's not a very big wide receiver, 6 foot nothing, 208 pounds, but the guy's shifty, the guy's fast, and he put it up in college at LSU. 1,780 yards, 20 touchdowns. So the guy's a playmaker. I can see where Cincinnati's coming from. They want to get Joe Burrow a playmaker. They want to get him a guy that can literally change the dynamic of the offense. You're looking at kind of like a Tyreek Hill like player that not in the speed wise, but they can just take one pass and change the dynamic of the game, whether it be a slant route, whether it be a go route, whatever route it is. So I see the pick, but again, I mean, if Joe Burrow's not going to be able to throw it to him because he's getting smashed, then how good of a pick is this one? But I guess we'll get to that with my draft grades.
All right, Tom, what about the team fit? How does this guy fit in with the Cincinnati Bengals and what they're bringing to the game right now?
I think it definitely fits a need. Does it fit the most important need? That's something we get to see going forward. I kind of felt offensive line would be something you would want to address. You need to keep the quarterback upright. But as it was mentioned too by our producer, I'll give the shout out. Jamar Chase is a teammate from Joe Burrow. They already had that connection. This could be a situation similar to what Dallas had many decades ago with Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin. So I think I wonder if Joe Burrow had some influence on this selection. I think if the one thing we learned today is make your franchise quarterback happy. And I look at he tried to do that with drafting Jamar Chase. So this is something where, okay, they got one need. Is it the most pressing need? We'll see. And now the Dolphins, I think they're another team with Miami. This pick, do they go offensive line? Do they go wide out?
The picks in too. That was
all right.
great.
The picks in real quick. Let's take a look at the fantasy implications of what the Bengals have done. And I think it's huge because, like you said, you wonder if a wide receiver and a QB can work together. Okay. Are these guys going to be able to get chemistry? You don't have to wonder about that. These guys have chemistry. 20, yes, they can play together. I think this is a great marriage. I love it all the way from a fantasy perspective. It's not like he's out there having to compete with, other great wide receivers right now. He is going to be the focal point right there. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get his looks. This is a wide receiver I think you can zone in on. If you're not able to draft him, see if you can trade for him because his numbers are going to go up at the end of the year. But watch the NFL draft because if the Bengals don't get some offensive line help, it ain't going to matter, is it, Josh?
No, it is not. And then I thought this pick was interesting. I like AJ Green for the Bengals. He's had some health issues in the past, but I thought that him and Joe Burrow were kind of developing a good relationship as, last season for the time that they did have. But this is an interesting one. Obviously he's a dynamic receiver. He's a good playmaker, but time will tell for the Bengals.
Yes, it will. Time will tell. Okay. And as Tom got us going there, Miami is on the clock. Talk about some Miami needs there. All right. Is QB one of them?
Right now, you can say, you know what, they're going to give, they're going to ride it with Tua for now, to say the least. They do need some offensive line help at offensive guard and offensive tackle. They could also maybe try to grab a wide receiver. So this is another one where I can see, Sewell coming off the board. I could also see maybe DeVonta Smith or Jaylen Waddle coming off too. So this is another situation where does the franchise value getting that dynamic wide receiver, or do you want to shore up the offensive line? So they almost have the same exact needs as the Cincinnati Bengals. And you got to wonder, well, will they do it? You got to give credit to Miami, though. They blew it up and they did rebuild very quickly. It probably did help to have Tom Brady leave the division. But Miami, you know what? They traded for a lot of draft picks. They got to ride with Tua for now. And
they did a lot better than certain Florida baseball teams trying to rebuild. And I'll definitely say that.
Yes.
All the way around, could this be, and I'm going to mention him a lot here, strictly based on talent, but of course there are quote unquote character concerns with Micah Parsons. But you look at, the Dolphins right now, and man, a dynamic linebacker would fit in. And this guy is good. Or are those character concerns going to knock him way down?
I think the character concerns will definitely play an impact if you want to build the right structure. And the pick is in. The Dolphins went with wide receiver from Alabama, Jaylen Waddle. So
wow.
I think that's a little surprising. But hey, you know what? Going from Alabama to Florida, I think the fans will like them. They're proving that similar to the Bengals. You know what? We want to get to that dynamic connection. And of course, one of our favorites, the Detroit Lions, is up next. So we'll see if they go for a punter or a long snapper.
And maybe both. It's hard to say, with two-way
both.
player. All right. Well, real quick before we get into that, Jaylen Waddle, Josh, what do we got on this guy? Here's another guy that was dynamic. It's not a matter of projection. He put up the numbers in college.
Well, yes, he did, and he is he's getting down now. We're jumping all over the place in my draft ranking, so we're gonna have to move a little bit down. Receiver, once again, little small guy, 5'10", 182 pounds, out of Alabama, but he's a playmaker, and I guess Miami. This is kind of throwing me off. Like might as well throw my draft chart out the board, but it looks like Miami wanted to get some more weapons for Tua, and as you know, kind of Tom and you got both kind of alluded to that they might have their QB of the future, and they might think that the time is now to move in the AFC East.
All right.
Yeah, I totally.
Well,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
gonna be
with what's
interesting.
going on right here, you're looking at this run. You called it. There is a run on wide receivers. The NFL draft is like that. There are runs. You don't want to be the last guy at the end of the run picking up, after the tier has been devoid. And man, once the wide receivers started going, they went boom, 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 regardless of size. And those were the top three. I was looking for them to maybe drop out, but since they're in, I think this puts teams that are QB hungry solidly on the board looking for a trade possibly.
Yeah.
Yes, you can say that. You got to say, Detroit, they made their trade for their quarterback, but it's also, if you're a wide receiver, do you want to be drafted by Detroit? I don't know if, you'd really want to do that. If you're a wide receiver, if you'd want to go with Detroit, I don't think I would want to do that because they have missed on several wide receivers, to say the least. They did hit on Calvin Johnson at least, though. So this is going to be very interesting going forward.
Waiting for some Jared Goff slant there. I'm glad we didn't get it. Detroit's pick is in. They're not making us wait because obviously the TV deal has been sufficed with the first three picks that they made us wait 45 minutes for the first three.
Oh, yeah. And
I'm pretty sure they already have the whole first round done, just making us wait it out. So,
well, there is a history in the NFL draft of them agreeing for things. Back in the day, the Dallas Cowboys, their first draft, Bob Lilly, who probably was going to go first or second in the draft. The Cowboys did not have the first pick in the draft as an expansion team. They picked way down, like in the middle. But the deal was Tom Landry would not take the job unless he got Bob Lilly. So he told the rest of the league, okay, nobody draft Bob Lilly. And they didn't. So, and he ended up with the Dallas Cowboys. All right, real quick, team need for Detroit Lions here, Tom.
So I think too, just like the previous two, they have wide receiver. You got to see if they go with DeVonta Smith, Heisman Trophy winner.
They wanted one of those three wide receivers. They're not there.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. They also need help on the defensive side. I don't see, this could be one, Micah Parsons, maybe, but who knows with the character concerns. Also need help at safety. Safety, I'm not a fan of drafting in the first round this high. I always feel like second round safeties, those are usually where you get your most bang for your buck. But we'll see who the Lions pick going forward. Do they go with defense? Could we finally see a defensive player come off the board, or do they go wide out?
A wide out here would be a reach, but they are the Detroit Lions. So, yes. I mean, who knows what they want to do? I think the draft broke about as badly as it could break for them. With the, boom, with basically the run on wide receivers, the one thing they didn't want to happen. But their pick is in, so they're going to go ahead and go. The best player available is what you should do in this situation, in my opinion. And so I think you're sitting here looking at Sewell, possibly Patrick Surtain too is graded very high by a lot of people. Micah Parsons is in play. They could use all of these positions, but DeVonta Smith is still there. So they need wide receiver out of all of these, the worst. So is this going to be a need pick? If it does, how much of a reach is DeVonta Smith, Josh?
I don't think it's that much of a reach considering Marvin Jones isn't going to be coming back to Detroit they have Jared Goff there now. Are they going to want to do something? Are they, Jared Goff is taking a team to the Super Bowl. Obviously, Detroit wants to have a fresh start with him. Are they going to give him some weapons? Are they going to give him some offensive line help? Because we saw that he struggled massively in LA when he was getting sacked and getting pressure. DeVonta Smith could be a great pick, but I think that they are going to do the smart one and snatch up Sewell off the boards here.
Well, they are high-fiving and hugging each other in the Detroit Lions war room, man. You would think somebody just stole, you just got a total steal there. And hey, if they get Sewell right there, I think that is a total steal. But, you got to admit, DeVonta Smith, that's going to be a talented guy, and he's going to fit in well there, just as you guys described. But as excited as they were, I think that they're excited that they got a drop in talent, which makes me think they went offensive line, or if it's the Lions, they went QB.
They went offensive line. Penei Sewell, drafted 7th overall by the Detroit Lions. So obviously they have something that the LA Rams did not, and faith in Jared Goff as a quarterback, and they want to get him some protection.
All right. Well, that is what he is. Let's go ahead and talk about Sewell for a moment there, Josh. Could you bring up some metrics on him and fill people in? I know I've been, giving him the plot is just from what I've seen on film. But when you look at what this guy grades out as, it's incredible, isn't it?
This guy has been on highlight reels since high school. He's been, doing pancakes, and he's been on everyone's radar since then. He opted out of the last year. So obviously we don't really have those stats to go on, but the guy he's a beast. He's 6'6", 330 pounds out of Oregon. And whatever position that he ends up finding his best spot in the NFL, because I think he can pretty much move anywhere across the line. He's going to make some big plays for Detroit. And I'm happy that Jared Goff will finally not be getting sacked as much as he had in the past.
Jared Goff has got to be the happiest guy in Detroit,
Yes.
him and his crew over this. All right, what about team fit? Tom, talk about it.
You know what? This is something when you really look at Detroit, tackle wasn't their biggest need. It wasn't their most glaring. But this is when you go for the best player available. And it totally makes sense. And, making a draft pick like this, if you get, maybe in a year or two, you hit with some interior alignment in the 2nd or 3rd round, all of a sudden the Detroit Lions have what Barry Sanders didn't have, and that was an elite offensive line. And if you're a quarterback, you definitely want that solid to elite offensive line, because 1, they protect you. 2, it establishes the run game, which makes the quarterback's life a lot easier. So this is something where they went for the best overall, and considering the options that were available, I would probably totally agree with it. And this just makes something stronger for the Lions going forward.
All right, from a fantasy perspective, you just have to roll what you two set up into one little ball and just and feel it around. Goff is definitely now moving slowly up the list of possible QBs you can look at in the later rounds. But if they can surround him with protection, Goff has proven he can move the ball and he's viable, and his numbers back it up. I may tease Joshua about it, but that's just it. I'm teasing. His numbers are there. Go look them up. And if you watch the kid play, give him time, he'll find the open guy and he'll deliver the ball. That's pretty much how I see him working from a fantasy perspective. If they continue this build through the draft and get him some more help along the offensive line, maybe a wide receiver or two later, it's a deep draft in wide receivers. I think this is an excellent fantasy pick so far. Josh, what do you think about that?
You're on mute, bro.
Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once here. Absolutely agree. No, I think it's a great pick. I think it's going to, give Jared Goff the protection. He's had great numbers if he can find maybe some nice targets that he likes in Detroit, or if they can add some other pieces supplementably in later rounds of the draft. And maybe watch out Detroit in the NFC, depending on what Aaron Rodgers ends up doing. No, not any other words about Aaron Rodgers. Apparently teams are calling, but Green Bay has declined to make any moves or anything right now. Not liking what they're getting for offers.
Well, all right, let's go ahead and talk about the next pick coming up. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock at number 8. Actually, their pick is in, and they traded for Sam Darnold. So let's talk real quick about team needs there, Tom. Is QB a team need for the Carolina Panthers, or should they take this pick and go ahead and get a skilled, position, some other position?
I would say this. The only one, whether it's you still have Mac Jones and Justin Fields available, and I'm not the biggest fan of either of them, I would go with Sam Darnold as your QB1 going into 2021. And I would say this though too, you got Christian McCaffrey. Okay. Do you maybe go cornerback here and get Surtain? Or do you tight end? I don't see them going right now. Or could this be something where, they finally address the defense, Micah Parsons or a Surtain? So this is going to be something that's interesting going forward. Or do they not go for need and go for best available and get Smith from Alabama at wide receiver? So all of a sudden you go, hey, wait a minute, we got Darnold, we got our running back in McCaffrey, now we got Smith. We could have a nice little triplet set up going forward.
Josh, what do you think the potential pick could be here?
Yeah, I kind of like what Tom said about DeVonta Smith. I mean, when you look at the best available player on the board, he's there. You just went out and you traded for Sam Darnold, so obviously you think that he's going to be your quarterback unless you want to take a shot at one or the other two available. But I think that's going to be the pick is a wide receiver to kind of help Sam Darnold out in the offense and kind of take off the pressure from Christian McCaffrey so he doesn't have to have 30, 40 touches a game.
From a fantasy perspective, all the way around, you just got to like what could happen if that does happen. You would have to like the possibilities that could bring forward. I definitely see wide receiver as being something that could really help them. But man, you just got your potential quarterback of the future. I think offensive line here is the way to go, or cornerback. What do you guys think?
The pick's in.
Oh, the pick's in. What did they do here?
They went cornerback.
Okay. That made sense because you're either going to try and help your QB or stop your QB.
But not the one that Tom necessarily mentioned, as they decided to draft Jaycee Horn with the 8th overall pick.
Well, go ahead and break down why he is different than Surtain. And basically, we're going to be talking about he's a better athlete and he's faster.
Yeah, he's we mentioned in the green room, and teams are looking for that ball hawk, that guy that can maybe make a difference on defense. And Jaycee Horn, he has it. He's physical, and he's going to be that, like, he's a shutdown. When you speak of a shutdown corner, Jaycee Horn is that guy.
All right. What about team fit? What do you think, Tom?
Cornerback was the need. The NFL, a lot of times you can't teach speed. So if you get Jaycee Horn, he could come and be that cornerback. But I'm pretty sure, you want to know who probably got happy at this selection was Tom Brady, because he's going to have a rookie cornerback to work against twice in 2021. So I think he's going to be in a tough division for a cornerback when you look at the experienced quarterbacks, maybe outside of New Orleans. But I think, the Panthers, they went to address the need. They kind of combined the need with the best available. So I think it's I'd probably give this pick maybe a B-. But, Carolina, I guess they like it. I don't think things, didn't pan out before them the way I think they expected. I think like any of us expected it. But they're trying to build up that defense going forward.
And from a fantasy perspective, that's what I want to talk about, the Panthers defense. And this is a big step in the right direction. I actually had Jaycee Horn rated above Patrick Surtain on my draft board. So I'm not surprised that he went first. As much as I like Surtain's game, a lot of his allure with fans is he has pedigree. He's got that family name, okay? Jaycee Horn has all of the same type shutdown stats. He's a ball hawk, and he's bigger and faster. So this is just something you got to look at. I mean, there are guys that can run away from you. Now, I don't think Surtain is going to be a bad pick at any point in the draft, but I think Horn is a better pick. And I think that this is an excellent selection. And it takes the Panthers defense and it raises it up. This is an aggressive cornerback. Think Josh Norman aggressive. This guy is going to get in your grill. But unlike Josh Norman, he's not 5'10". All right. This guy is the real deal. He's the total package. I love this pick. And the Panthers defense, if they keep building on this, is something you're going to have to watch for from a fantasy perspective. Now, the Denver Broncos are on the clock. Tom, talk to us about the needs of the Denver Broncos as a team. What do they need? And is QB on the list? Are they talking to Green Bay, or are they happy with the recent trade they made?
As of right now, it looks like quarterback is a need. The key moment is, as of right now, with the knowledge we have, it looks like they'll need some offensive line help, but that's interior offensive line help. Right now you don't make that pick for offensive line help if you need a center offensive guards. There's no Quentin Nelson in this draft. They also need help at linebacker and cornerback. So this is a pick where it could dictate a lot of what's going to happen. If Denver does draft a quarterback, you'd have to assume that Aaron Rodgers will not be going to the Mile High City. And it's going to be, once again, interesting. I can see the Broncos probably, they might go with cornerback here, because I think that's where you get the best value, where you get Surtain from Alabama at cornerback. You definitely need some help in the secondary when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. There's no real pass rushers that really stand out at this point in the draft. So you just try to get a cornerback, just try to get someone who can at least slow down maybe at least one of the Kansas City wide receivers.
All right. Joshua, as potential pick there, I got to ask you right now, they got John Elway there. You got Justin Fields out there, who's a quarterback that's got the big throw. It's going to take him a while. He winds up and lets it go. Not the quickest delivery, but he's got all the physical tools. And Elway can appreciate that. Is he turning around and looking at Justin Fields going, you know what? This guy fell into my lap. I got to consider this.
I think you have to be if you're him right now. I mean, really, Teddy Bridgewater, is that your QB of the future? Maybe that's your QB of right now, but I think that I don't think Denver's thought that they were going to have these kind of options fall to them with the 9th overall pick. And I could definitely see Justin Fields. Like I don't think they're going to go with a defensive side. I think that with the available talent and the skill position, they want to bring somebody back to the Denver Broncos that's going to be like, hey, let's remember that the Denver Broncos are a good franchise.
All right. There it is. They are still on the clock, which makes me believe that what they're doing right now is they're waiting for the phone to ring. They're working the phones. That's generally how that is. They're pushing it out as far as they can. When you have QBs on the board and or talent that has dropped, which, right about here, that's what you've got, depending upon your board. You are definitely listening for that phone to ring, especially since you're sitting in front of the Dallas Cowboys, and that they're hoping that all the QBs drop to them so that they can try and get a deal done and trade down. I think from this position right here, with where the Broncos are, I think trading down would fit their happy place right now. I think they would have liked to have seen like a Penei Sewell or something like that drop to them, or one of the top wide receivers. That didn't happen. So I think that they're looking for value right now. I think that's why they went after Teddy Bridgewater. I think they want to find out what they have at QB. But if that phone's not going to ring, there's two QBs on the map right there. And it's just a matter of whether you want the more athletic one or you want the one that's going to sit in the pocket, right?
Yeah. And if the phone's going to ring right here, I think it's either going to be from the New England Patriots at 15. I don't see that as much, or go down to 20, where Tom already said if we see if the Bears make another mistake and trade up for a quarterback. But there's so many possibilities with this, and when with the first 8 picks in the draft, it kind of leaves us wide open.
All right. And then, you've also got the Washington football team. Nobody's really talking about them right now. That was,
For one.
until they traded back a little bit. A lot of people are looking like maybe at Mac ending up going there.
Okay, well, the pick is in, and here we go.
All right, this is pretty exciting. Denver has the pick. They're rolling it in. And, of course, now comes the big NFL stall. So we'll all sit here and stare at the camera. No, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to talk about options on this. All right, QB, man. You got to think it's QB, but I don't know. Tom, do you have the pick yet?
Yes. Patrick Surtain, cornerback. So that's who they went with.
All right, Tom got that one right, man. Let's bring up the metrics if we can on Patrick Surtain the third. All right, the dude has pedigree in the NFL. What do you got for us, Joshua?
Oh, I'm looking for Patrick. I can't work as fast as the NFL draft is going.
Well, that's
slow.
all right. Let's talk about the team fit right now.
They keep
the Denver Broncos and Patrick Surtain the third. You kind of talked about it, and before the pick came in, you thought that cornerback would be a good value for them here.
Yeah, I definitely think when you look at the division they're in, and you're going up against Patrick Mahomes twice a year, you are going to absolutely need a strong defense, or at least a defense good enough to slow down Mahomes. So since there was no dynamic edge rusher in this draft, you got to go with cornerback. So you went with Patrick Surtain, which I think it fits a need going forward. Also, it might reveal, would they try to make a trade for a certain quarterback from Wisconsin? We'll see. But I definitely think it fits a need. And I can see the strategy in selecting it. Now we get to wait for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. Hoorah for that. Okay, Dallas is on the clock. Let me talk real quick about the fantasy implications of Surtain going up there. And it's the same implications that we talked about with other defenders going. It's something that you want to watch. The Broncos are in a tough division, man. A tough division. They need this. They need it a lot. And anybody facing Mahomes, I don't think you could have enough top flight cornerbacks. 5 shutdown cornerbacks might not be enough against Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, this to me, I think, I grade this as a straight A. Surtain could have gone earlier and nobody would have blinked. He's definitely a talent. I put him and Jaycee Horn, at 1, 2, almost at 1A and 1B. These two guys are true talents. I don't think there's a problem with transitioning their game. Watch the Broncos defense and the right matchup. I think you're saying that they can really score you some points from a fantasy position. Now let's talk Dallas Cowboys. Team needs. They are on the clock. What do you got for us, Tom?
Well, the Dallas Cowboys, they're in a unique situation with Dak Prescott, to say the least. But it looks like most of what they need is on the defensive side. They can do with the cornerback, which the top 2 cornerbacks are already off the board. Safety, there's no one out there. Defensive tackle and ILB and a tight end. I see this being a situation where they go with Micah Parsons because I think he's the one, when you look at their needs and the value out there, you either go with Micah Parsons or you go with Jeremiah Owusu-Komora from the University of Notre Dame.
I like him a lot better than Micah Parsons, for a lot of reasons, and also for fit, because the Cowboys have some linebackers on the team, which I think are talented guys. They just need to get the scheme to fit with them. But who do you think could be the pick here coming up, Joshua?
Yeah, I like it from a defensive side. You saw last year they kind of added a wide receiver with, of course, everyone knows CeeDee Lamb, and they have the weapons at quarterback and at running back, and I think that that's kind of something that they need to solidify. Tom mentioned that they might want to get a cornerback, and the pick is in, and it's
a trade.
It's a trade. The Eagles are on the
That's
clock.
what I picked. I'm getting ready to say no. I think they're going to trade down. They were waiting for some guys to drop. If their guys didn't drop, they wanted to trade out of there. That's what the Cowboys want to do. In my mock drafts, the trade down is how they get value in this draft from the number 10 position. I love it. Now, if Sewell would have been there, I said take him, but he wasn't.
They traded down 2 picks, though.
Yeah, you don't have to trade far. You're just getting more picks. What did they get? That's what I want to find out.
It's got to be a 5th or a 6th.
You got to love how they're showing the photo of the Cowboys draft room, and pretty much only one person's in there. Maybe they made a trade with Belichick's dog. Who knows?
They're totally social distance. Plus, you got to figure Jerry's on his yacht. I mean, wouldn't you be?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we got to switch gears and talk about what the Eagles draft needs now, because
they made a trade with the Eagles. Oh my goodness.
That's almost, are they doing this so basically what the Eagles need, wide receiver. If they want wide receiver, they're going with the DeVonta Smith from Alabama.
I think so too. I think this was a trade up because DeVonta Smith is still on the table and they want him.
Yeah.
All right, so that definitely makes the most sense. What about team needs for them, Tom?
They need, wide receiver, which I think would be addressed with DeVonta Smith. They also need some help on the defensive side. I don't think they would trade up for Micah Parsons. Surtain's off the board. It would be hysterical if they draft a quarterback. Oh God, I love that.
Oh yeah,
I would absolutely love that.
That would be funny, but I agree with you. I think, when they trade up like that, they're worried what Dallas might do, and they're worried what the Giants could do right there. This is the NFC East block right here. And I think they basically were going up over the New York Giants because the Giants could go offensive line or wide receiver. Either way, I think they're worried about it. And I think that's why they jumped out. And I think wide receiver is the pick, as you alluded to.
Yeah, I think because you have Waddle off the board, you have Chase off the board.
They're showing Justin Fields, of course, like he's going to get drafted by the Eagles.
And if I'm David Jones, I'm going yes, because I want an offensive lineman to be taken, if at all possible.
I'm not crazy about Rashawn Slater though.
I see now. I like Rashawn Slater, but I'm not crazy about trading up to get Rashawn Slater, especially when it's 2 picks.
Yeah.
I don't think that and especially is he that much better than Darisaw that you're going to trade away those assets to get him? So I think that we're really going to get DeVonta Smith, and I think they're like, okay, well, we have our quarterback. We've solved that issue. Let's get him a weapon. The Eagles, they still have a fair bit of picks in this draft, so they can definitely address the offensive line issues later on down the line. But I think it's going to be a wide receiver.
Yeah, I actually put out on Twitter, but before the pick, that Cowboys have to be hoping the phones ring with both top cornerbacks off the board, and that's what happened. And they took what they could get. They're like, if nobody's going to go freak and go like, I'm going to grab one of those quarterbacks, who's going to give me something? Because I think the guys that they're looking at right now are going to be available later.
Yeah. So it sounds like the Cowboys were pretty chapped that Surtain went to the Broncos at 9. I think that was that was their pick. It looks like.
Either Jaycee or Surtain, either one. I think they would have taken and been happy with.
Do we see the Do we see them staying at 12 and going with a defensive player?
No, I think they're going to
cornerback at
try and
12?
trade down again. They're going to try and trade down again.
That
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah. Wait,
I really don't see anyone fitting in. Also, if I'm the Giants, I also see the Giants trading down.
there's two
All
there's
right.
two quarterbacks left in the thing, but we're kind of running out of teams that
Well, the Eagles
necessarily
pick is
need
in.
quarterbacks.
The Eagles pick is in, so that's good. And Tom, as soon as you see it, just hold up your finger. You seem to have the quickest feed. Well, it's in New
Yeah.
York, they're closer to you, so that makes sense.
I don't know. The Canadian feed's pretty good here too, eh?
Oh, I don't want to hear about it. No. Oh,
I don't know. Do we get? I think maybe the next QB we see go is the Vikings at 14.
well, Tom hit it right away on team needs. The Eagles have needed a wide receiver. I mean, you could have said that for the past, I don't know, 30 drafts, something like that. I mean, they have needed a
Yeah.
wide receiver for a long, long time. And it is a huge need. And Smith's here at number 10.
And here it is, picks
Yeah.
in.
So he's probably announcing the
All right,
trade.
now let's walk
now.
as slowly as we can to the podium. Come on, dude, get
Yeah,
up,
it's
move
it.
it.
That
DeVonta Smith. Yeah.
hey,
DeVonta
we got
Smith,
one
wide
right.
Receiver taking.
DeVonta Smith. All right.
Let's go to bring me to DeVonta Smith. Let's talk about some of his numbers because I knew that he was going to get drafted early, and I have his stuff right up here. 13 games last season with Alabama, 117 receptions, 1,856 yards, and 24 touchdowns. The guy's he's a baller. I mean, we knew he was going to go. We knew he was going to be one of the top NFL wide receivers in this draft. We just didn't know what team was going to find him as a fit. The 6'1", 175-pound wide receiver is off to Philadelphia.
And what a segue that is. Team fit, Tom.
Basically, the Eagles definitely needed a wide receiver, and Smith was the best one available, I think, of the dynamic wide receivers in the first round. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do. Do they go with Rashawn Slater going forward as tackle? Did they go defense? The Giants have not drafted a linebacker since Carl Banks in 1984. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward. But of course, the NFC East, they gang up, make a move to mess up with the Giants.
All right. And now let's talk about the fantasy implications real quick. Jalen Hurts has got to be really happy about this, man, because I mean, they just have not had talent at wide receiver. They lead the league in drops. They lead the league in bad patterns. They lead the league in bad draft picks at wide receiver. This is bad, but this is not a bad draft pick. This guy is going to be able to play in the NFL. This moves Jalen Hurts up the ladder in fantasy, and you have to watch this guy as a rookie because he is going to get targets. But we don't have time to sit here and enjoy this really whatsoever because this is the NFC East block. And now the New York Giants are on the clock. Let's talk about team needs. And, everybody wants to talk about offensive line with the Giants. I'm one of those guys. But you guys really have a need at linebacker and wide receiver as well, yeah?
Yeah, I would say they do need a need at wide receiver. They did sign Galladay in the offseason. They have Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton under contract. I think if they got DeVonta Smith, that would balance it out. So the Giants have actually traded their pick to the Bears. That has just broke on ESPN.
Oh, this screws the
So-
Cowboys over big time because you know that the
Oh,
Bears
yeah.
have got to be
Two
going
can
for a
play at
QB.
this game. Two can play at this game. You want to trade down? All right, you think you're going to get no.
Oh,
I
that's
think
just
too.
perfect. That is perfect.
Oh, this is great. So then the Bears are able to draft a quarterback. So I definitely think this is something going forward that could be interesting. So now for the Giants, I think it makes sense. Their guy isn't available. Try to get more production, to say the least. So yeah, we'll see what the Bears do. We'll see which draft pick. I'm assuming the Giants picked up at least the first round pick. So
Yep, I'm hitting Twitter on this right now. This is
Yeah.
pretty exciting. Talk about team needs for the Bears real quick, if you could.
well, the Bears, for some reason, I have a feeling everyone already knows one position they have a need for. That is, of course, quarterback. And they need help on the offensive line. I don't think they would move up for Slater. Interior lineman, no. Wide receiver, I see this going with the quarterback. I see this being Mac Jones or Justin Fields as a selection. So I don't see anything else happening for the Bears. I don't see them moving up. I don't know.
We don't know if they
exact
gave
move.
up. I mean, I'm not actually getting the information on from the trade. Giants return from Chicago. All right, they got a next year's number 1
Next year's number 1.
and number 20 this year.
Okay.
So you got 2 number 1s out of that. I don't know what Dallas got on their trade down. Do you?
Dallas, I think, got this year's first and a third for next year. So
third for
you can
next
say
year?
yeah. So you can say the Giants probably make off better with the
Oh,
pick
heck
in.
yes. That was the trade Cowboys wanted right there, and Bears wouldn't make it with them.
Yeah. So yeah, I see the Bears going quarterback once again. Do you think they go with the Fields or Mac Jones?
I think Fields. But I mean, Mac Jones is going to have a good career in the NFL, in my opinion. So I'm trying to get information
also
on the trade. For sure, verified.
Gi-
Was it a first and a third there?
Yeah,
All
but
right,
I do
that's,
like the
Dallas Cowboys are now on the clock. The pick is in for the Chicago Bears. I'm going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys needs real quick. Yeah, it's cornerback, but there's lots of good cornerbacks available here in the second and third round. I'm not worried about that. Would it have been nice to have Jaycee Horn? Yeah, it would have been nice, but there's some good cornerback talent available later. I would love to see the Cowboys go offensive line. I would actually like to see them trade down to the bottom of the first to do that. That's where I think the real value is, but okay. Safety here is a little early, but Mooring is still here right now. Defensive line, I think it's early for that. Linebacker, Micah Parsons is there, but I don't think linebacker is as big as need as everybody's making it out to be.
Yeah, I think too, we got the Bears pick coming in right now and the Bears selection. Looks like he's probably Roger Goodell's announcing the trade.
Another trade? Oh my goodness.
No.
And I agree with, some of what I'm seeing here on Twitter is that, the Cowboys the only pick here for the Cowboys in my eyes is offensive line. That's the only value right here for them. If they can't get a trade down, I think they ought to go ahead and pick offensive line.
Yeah.
So, and I think they're going to wait because they're going to try and work the phones right up to the last moment.
Yeah. But no, I think it makes sense to, you don't want to trade down 2 spots. I think you want to trade down more.
So, Joshua, have we been able to verify exactly what the trade parameters were between the Cowboys and the Eagles?
Justin Fields to Chicago.
Just what we thought. Okay. All right. Go ahead and talk to us about the team fit there, if you could. Okay, he's off for a minute. Joshua, fill us in and talk to us real quick about Justin Fields. I mean, that's another guy that, he's prolific. You're muted.
Well, that would help. That would help me talk, obviously. Ohio State quarterback, obviously transferred over from Georgia. It looks like the Bears did exactly what we all were laughing about them doing, and they traded up to draft another quarterback. I mean, Justin Fields is 6'3", 228 pounds. He's got good numbers in Ohio State, 2,100 yards passing, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. They're taking another chance. I mean, I don't know what that dub Bears.
From a fantasy perspective, you got to love it because he's in the NFC North, and they have that defense. There are many things that help a quarterback. A good running game, also a good defense helps a quarterback out. It helps it out a lot, and that's just something that you really have to enjoy for this pick. I mean, I think it's a fine pick. They had to give up a lot to get up there. I think that the Giants front office totally outmaneuvered the Dallas Cowboys front office and maneuvering and getting this trade to work. Because I know the Cowboys they were probably holding out for a little more, or playing hardball. The Giants obviously made a phone call or two of their own and got the job done. So, props to them all the way around. But hey, the Bears pick, I like that. The Dallas Cowboys are now on the clock. And man, they could go defense here if they do. I like Owusu as to be the best player on the defensive side of the ball right now, value-wise. But if they are forced to pick again, I hope it's offensive line. Tom, what about you?
I hope the Dallas Cowboys select the ghost of Tom Landry. But when I do look at their needs objectively, what this I think is value with Rashawn Slater. It does make a lot of sense. Did you need help at tackle? I'm not sure if they'll go linebacker here, but for Cowboys fans, there are no former basketball players in the draft, so that could be a good thing for you guys. But I see Slater from Northwestern, the offensive tackle being drafted here by the Cowboys.
Yeah. So yeah, Joshua, do you have any alternate picks there that you think might be valid?
I'm still like you guys. I'm waiting for maybe another trade down by Dallas. But if they can't, Rashawn Slater, or maybe we're gonna see Micah Parsons go here, because we know that Dallas needs some defensive help. Obviously, the two cornerbacks that they were looking at with Patrick Surtain and Jaycee Horn are off the board. Maybe they go linebacker with Parsons, or maybe they go with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
I do think though too, if you're Parsons, the Cowboys are not a franchise to shy away from players with character issues, or alleged character issues, if you want to call that. So I think you could see maybe Micah Parsons ending up in Dallas.
All right. Well, the pick is in. So, of course, that could also mean a trade. We do not know at this point. There is no bad pick. There's a lot of good talent here. I don't think the great value for the pick is here. That was obviated by the maneuvering above them, and they didn't get the great value, but they got some value. They should be happy with it, not sweat it, and just take what comes. They already are a draft pick better than they were, at number 10, and it's not affecting the player that they're going to select. So that is a very good thing. If they go on the defensive side of the ball, it's not a bad thing. They have so many holes over there, it's going to work. But I think doubling down on that offensive line is a great thing. But they don't have to do it here. They can do it elsewhere. I mean, Owusu, to me, is the value pick here. when you look at talent. He's not a guy that you're going to be able to get later. Anybody like him?
So we were talking about the trade parameters from the Cowboys to the Eagles for this pick. The Cowboys received the 2021 third round pick from the Eagles, as well as their 12th pick, which is coming in now as somebody really pumped. Looks like maybe, I don't know, is that where Nate is? Because whoever's there is just jacked for this Cowboys pick.
It could very well be Nate. All right, he's coming up to the floor finally, and he's going to stop and say hello to the super fan who gets to sit in the chair, which is kind of cool. I'd like to sit there.
This guy doesn't just get to sit there. He's up in it right now.
I don't think there's a cornerback that's worthy of taking right here. I think there's several still good cornerbacks available, just not value picks for this slot. Again, I think safety, linebacker, or offensive line is where the value is right here. Of course, they could blow everybody's mind and just get another wide receiver, right?
They could, yeah. I mean, Rashad Bateman, Kadarius Toney. I mean, we kind of talked about him in the green room, but we'll see. It looks like the draft pick is coming in right here.
Yeah, they're really dragging it out.
Draft Jalen Suggs.
Who?
They're going to draft Jalen Suggs, guard. Oh, they drafted Micah Parsons.
So they went with Micah. He's not afraid of character concerns.
No.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, character concerns, you probably fit in with the Cowboys better.
And, actually, I'll have to throw in, I should have mentioned this before because it was tickling in the back of my head. Jerry Jones is more obsessed with perception than with reality of what he's getting on the football field. He constantly likes to draft guys that he can argue what a value this pick was. What a great pick I made with this pick. This guy was a top 5 player, and I got him at number 12. And yeah, you could argue that this was a top 5 talent. Absolutely could. But there's a reason he dropped.
Yes, there is. I mean, he didn't play last year. The 6'3", 255-pound linebacker out of Penn State. But when he did play in 2019, 13 games, 52 solo tackles, 57 assists, and adding in 5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. He's a disruption on defense, and he can definitely provide some stability at linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, if he can stay out of Michael Irvin's old haunts, I don't think that he could definitely do that. It's a solid B pick because there's no doubting the guy's talent, and at least he's not injured. I love that about him. And the guy is legitimately a top 5 physical talent and production wise, et cetera. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he goes in. They did not draft for need here. They drafted more along BPA, best player available. So I can't really fault them for that. I would definitely like to see them have built the locker room a little bit more. There was some nice locker room guys available. But that extra 3rd round pick that they got from trading down, I think is going to be key. The Cowboys had nowhere to go but up insofar as a defensive line pick. So, I mean, that's fantastic. The Chargers are on the clock right now. Tom, can you talk a little bit about team need with them, please, sir? And I'm actually going to make a water run here.
All right. So the Chargers here, they made Justin Herbert the pick last year in the 1st round. This year, their needs, they got offensive tackle, which you got to think if Rashawn Slater, he's still there. You got to wonder how come no one's picking Slater. They need some help at tight end, cornerback. So defensive tackle and wide receiver. I think based off these needs and what's available, I see them going with Rashawn Slater, tackle from Northwestern, or Farley, cornerback from Virginia Tech, because I think those fit the 2 needs. But also if you got Justin Herbert, I think, we've seen a lot of QBs. What they did is they matched up the QB with a wide receiver. This time, though, I think you match up the QB with an offensive tackle in Rashawn Slater going forward. But we'll see what happens. Josh, what do you think? What do you think the Chargers are going to do with this pick?
Yeah, I like Rashawn Slater. Obviously, offensive line, you got your quarterback last year in Herbert. You have to protect him. We've seen that time and time again. Could we see them maybe trying to give him another weapon at wide receiver? We've had, the top ones come off the board, but there is still some pretty good depth talent. Maybe a kind of random off the board pick would be to bring in a running back. Maybe Najee Harris gets a bump early on and goes to the Chargers, but I think that what you said with Rashawn Slater and offensive line solidifying that up to help their offense and their franchise QB will go a lot in moving forward for them.
Yep. I totally agree. And now one has to wonder, you got Mac Jones left. Is anyone going to trade up to grab Mac Jones?
I don't think we're going to see it here because I don't think that the Vikings could probably use a quarterback. The Patriots, we know, could use a quarterback. But from what I'm hearing from the Patriots is they might wait until the second or third round and kind of look at somebody like a Kyle Trask or a Kellen Mond, and develop them as opposed to, using the first round pick and wasting it, I guess you could say, because we've talked so much ad nauseum about not necessarily top round, first round quarterbacks are going to be stars in the NFL. So I don't think there's going to be much trade bait for the Chargers to try and move down since that top quarterback, there's still a quarterback on the thing, but we shall see.
All right. Well, from the LA Chargers, you look at it, you talk about, I'm sure you guys have mentioned the offensive line, and I really don't see them doing anything other than that here. It's not a matter of what value pick is here, but if they did, man, if they added some of the defensive talent available to what they already have on their defense is pretty darn good. If they could kick it up and go a notch right here, they could really use a safety, and that would really bring their defense together. And strangely enough, they do need some cornerback talent, but I don't think that's a value pick here at all. Here I think defensive line, offensive line, possibly safety. That's where the pick is.
We haven't seen defensive line players go yet either.
No, this year isn't a year to be drafting a defensive lineman in the first round, I don't think.
No, not with the depth that there is at so many of the other positions. And like Fan mentioned that they might have the needs for a safety, but I mean, are you dropping the 13th overall pick on Trevon Moehrig or a Caleb Farley or somebody along those lines?
All right. That's a great question. Sorry, I got distracted here. I was trying to do a little social media there. So as we're looking at this right now, and you have to think about the type of guys that they're taking a while to pick, but the pick is in right now. So you got to think that they went. The highest guy on my board right now is Jeremiah Owusu. I think that is the value pick. But Mac Jones, if they can get a trade going, that is the guy that's going to bring it. If the Patriots don't pick Mac Jones, and I'm with you, I don't think they will right here. I can see him really dropping into day two.
Do you see Washington maybe taking Mac Jones? Because I think that's a team at 19 you can maybe look at. Miami won't. What about Oakland maybe at 17?
I can see that. If it falls, I can actually see even Oakland maybe trying to trade up because they're going to have to pay Derek Carr a lot of money, and they would probably rather have a younger QB in his entry level deal where they can make the moves and spend the money on different players. So I can see the Raiders maybe wanting to move up for a QB.
Yeah, I can see that. I think if the ghost Al Davis has its way, he'll definitely move up and try to get Mac Jones.
Oh, no, he's not fast enough. You got to draft a fast QB. You got to remember that. Okay. That's the only way that it works.
I thought Jamarcus Russell was the fast QB. I thought he wanted the ones with the big arm. So, okay, well, Rashawn Slater, that's going to be an interesting one. I see him going to the Chargers.
Oh, you know, of course they're delaying the pick again. I mean, my goodness, are they stretching this out? Chargers need offensive line. That's their number one need by far. I realize everybody's looking at Slater, but I mean, there's like basically 2 or 3 tackles that they could take right here and make a case for and say, yeah, okay, you know, maybe you picked it a few picks early, but he's still, you know, first round talent. You know, he's still going to be there.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be interesting to say the least. The Chargers pick is it.
As they do that, Tom, let's slide on and look at the Minnesota Vikings right now, because they got a lot of team needs. And I think the draft lines up very well for them right now and with what's available. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Vikings, they need some help at defensive end. They need some help on the interior line, also safety and linebacker. So this could be something else. You can see the linebacker from Notre Dame going. As we get the Chargers pick coming in, when the Chargers are selecting, let's get the drum roll, please. They selected Rashawn Slater, tackle from Northwestern. I think that fits a need. I think it's the best value. I think it's not much of a reach. So it does look like, you know, the Chargers are getting some help at offensive line. But getting back to the Vikings, they got some needs. They got some needs on the interior line. They need an edge rusher, a safety, and a linebacker. I think for the value here, you might want to go with the linebacker, Owusu from Notre Dame.
Well, he's the versatile pick. He's the versatile pick, man. I mean, you can slide him in anywhere and play him. And all right, let's talk about the Chargers did make it official there with Rashawn Slater. Real quick about that, we've already pretty much predicted it, but from a fantasy perspective right now, this totally helps the QB. I mean, Josh, you've been saying it over and over and over. You know, hey, it's no good if your QB is on his back. It's not going to help. And this guy, you know, he's the real deal. He's got the tools. They should be able to slide him in along that beleaguered offensive line. And their QB was one near the top of the league in taking hits last season.
He was, and Justin Herbert will probably be celebrating for joy after this pick by the Chargers. You know, if you kind of look at Rashawn Slater's body of work with Northwestern there, big guy. He's got really fast feet for a tackle, able to, pick up the stunts and stuff and get inside. And I think he's going to, like you said, it really add to, the fantasy value of someone like Justin Herbert, because he's going to hopefully get a hit less times. And I've said that, I think that's going to be the mantra of my NFL draft is draft so your quarterback's not getting put on his butt every single play.
It's good advice. All right. So, it's a good pick all the way around. The Chargers have done a nice job. Now let's bounce back over to the Vikings with pick number 14. We're only doing 15 picks. That's all we're going to cover for here, because after that, it really starts to drag down and you really can't predict what's coming, though it is awesome. I will be watching it. And so if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that notify bell, slap that bad boy as well. We really appreciate you being out there. Thank you so much. Minnesota Vikings, they got Cousins at QB, but, he hasn't been the answer. I could see something. I could see a reach here because, they are the Minnesota Vikings and actually reaching down and grabbing somebody. And I'm saying not Mac Jones.
Trade alert. The Vikings have traded their pick to the Jets. I repeat, the Vikings have traded their pick to the Jets. Who the hell are the Jets picking here?
Why would Jets trading up to 14?
Well, there's still offensive line, but again, they could go defense. I think that there's good value here on defense. I really like Christian Barrymore here along the defensive line. I think he played out of position primarily last season. I think if you go ahead and move him down to where he needs to play, that his numbers and production will come up. I think he's the real deal. He has the flexibility. You can play him anywhere. He proved that last season. So, he could be good. There's talent here. It all depends on what they gave up. It's the Jets. Did they give up next year's number one to do it as well?
Well, I would imagine. Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I was going to say, it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, obviously, we're obviously going to see the Jets 23rd pick swap with the 14th pick with the Minnesota. And from what Dallas got from the Eagles for a third round, I would imagine it's going to be probably a third round pick as well.
You think a third or a fourth, something like that.
Yeah, going back to the Vikings. I can't see it being that big. But again, right, if we're talking needs for the Jets, what are they going to do with this one? Obviously there's a player that is on the board that they want right now. There's somebody that they're looking at and going, this guy's still available. And, kind of looking at the players on the board, do they go with Najee Harris? Do they just blow everything up and start brand new and bring in a running back too? And, I know we've mentioned kind of they might need some help on defense, but
way too early for a running back. No. And I tell you what, I would not be drafting a running back in the first round, even though there are some teams that really, really need it. They can get them later.
So who are they trading up 8 picks to get?
Well, there's the New York Jets. It could be another quarterback.
You want to know why the Jets are trading up? Who's picking 15? The New England Patriots. They want to grab someone.
They're gonna grab Mac Jones just to mess with the Patriots. Okay,
that's what would surprise me.
Oh my God!
Mac Jones. What do you got?
The pick is in.
Wouldn't it be perfect if they actually did pick? They just decided to pick Mac Jones because they were just like, hey, screw you, New England Patriots. It's so fitting that we're covering it to right to the 15th pick because we have this drama right at the end, which is fantastic as we are 2 hours and 37 minutes into our live draft show.
Well, also you have Kwity Paye. Now he is one of the top defensive edge guys out there. Okay. And now, there is no super sexy blue chip edge guy, but he's still an edge guy and he's still got real skills. So that's something, that everybody can use. Every team can use a guy like that. So I like him a lot. But no, I think the linebacker here from Notre Dame, that's to me, that's the sexy pick right here.
I agree with Van. The reason why I think Owusu would be phenomenal with the Patriots and Bill Belichick. That's why the Jets are jumping up and grabbing this.
I can totally agree with that, Tom. We talked about if he made it to the Patriots, it should be an investigation.
Yes.
Because it's just not right for them to get a guy like that.
I totally agree. So I think that's why. That's the only thing I can think of, really. Vera-Tucker's still available, but the Jets do need interior line help. But I don't think you jump up in the first round for an interior lineman. I think this is more the person the Jets want. They think New England's going to take, and you got to love how the division rivalries popped up, especially from the East teams. You got AFC East teams making trades against each other and NFC East teams making trades to jump up from a division rival. So I think it has to be Owusu from Notre Dame.
It makes sense. But again, I think Josh mentioned something, interesting. The Jets have been obsessed with running back for a while now. And, who they got? Tevin Coleman. Okay. Not a bad guy, but that's like who they got at wide receiver, Corey Davis. Not a bad guy. Okay, maybe even a bad guy. But still, there's nothing there at the skill position to help out QB Zach Wilson. Nobody. So, wow.
So Jets get a 4th round pick from the Vikings. Vikings get a 3rd round pick from the Jets.
Okay, so in exchange of a round. That's not bad.
I still think the Giants got the better deal getting the 2021 first round.
Oh,
pick.
they scored. That's the best
They
pick of the
did.
first, the best trade of the first round. You can crow on that one for a while.
Yeah. So it almost getting that second first round pick for next year for not, for just
that's
trading down a
huge.
few spots. It's huge.
All right. Well, real quick before we get, it's the last team we're going to cover here. Tom, talk about the New England Patriots needs.
So the New England Patriots needs are, they have quarterback. We'll see if they go with Mac Jones. They need wide receiver. I don't see that going. I'd tell you this though, for running back, that could be interesting at 15 with Etienne or Harris. But the Jets pick is in. Then we got Commissioner Goodell, and the New York Jets have selected. Looks it is.
Oh, Alijah Vera-Tucker.
All
Okay,
right.
they went defense. That's not bad.
No,
Okay.
he's all right. I think
No, he's an offensive
I'm
lineman.
a little.
Out of USC.
I mean,
No,
you know,
I think.
well, what Joshua said is the theme of the night. You want to keep your QB on his feet. That's what the Jets are doing here. You could argue that it's a little bit early, but if there all of a sudden is a run on offensive tackles right here, there's a handful, and he is a guy that's legitimate, first rounder. I don't consider this a bad pick. And all they did was exchange in between a third and a fourth round, move down like that. Not too much. I mean, they paid a premium, but I mean, they're the Jets. I've seen them screw up a lot worse.
Yeah, I think, I'm a little surprised. Now I'm definitely intrigued by what the New England Patriots are going to do at 15, to say the least. But I think this pick definitely fits a need for the Jets, and it looks like the Patriots pick is already in. I'm going to say it's Mac Jones.
Jesus Christ. That was fast.
So
yeah. Alijah Vera-Tucker out of USC. 6'4", 308 pounds.
He's an interior lineman too, not a tackle.
He's a guard. Probably could move to center.
They need him. I mean, he's a good talent. I think that they could have had him later. I don't think, but whatever.
I think they could have
jumping in front of the Patriots.
Whoa. Did I just read that?
Well, we hope so, because you definitely got excited over it. So, what is it?
You make me refresh my Twitter. You make me do.
Oh, no. Okay.
Mac Jones is on the clock.
Okay. I thought I saw maybe I've been up too long. I thought I said something like, I think ESPN screwed up the graphics.
Well, there's Belichick and Kraft. They're still in there. It looks like they have another guy on the phone. It looks to me like the pick is in, like it's done. They look like they're done.
That was the quickest pick in I've ever seen.
It's Bill Belichick.
You got to think I didn't think they would want to go QB this early in the draft. There's still some pretty appetizing players, but
if Mac Jones falls to you,
yeah,
I wonder.
Mac Jones is fine, but I go back to what we were talking about, Tom. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is still available, and he is a Swiss Army knife. And man, they could use some help at linebacker. I love that pick for them. I absolutely do. I could also see them going Caleb Farley here, who is definitely a talented guy. I mean, they're just a lot to like. There's also a couple edge guys they could go with here. There's some good running back talent, but that needs to come at the end of the first to the second, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So this one too, I can see Mac Jones definitely going here. I can see Najee Harris or Etienne. or Owusu, which
I could see
is
Tevin Jenkins going here.
No, you were Tom. What you saw was great. It was right. It looks like Mac Jones going to the Patriots.
Yep, he's going to the Patriots. Jimmy
Yes.
Garoppolo is not. All right,
So
let's
that
make
graphic,
clear.
so it looks like they did run a graphic accidentally by mistake ahead of the pick being selected to say that the Patriots selected
I
Mac
love
Jones
this
with the
pick.
pick.
I love this pick. If Bill Belichick thinks that you can make it in the league, I think you've got a chance. I like how they've got what's his name on the. Yeah, I already can't remember it because he's the future ex-Patriots QB. I'm glad that he's still on the team right now, so that he's going to have somebody that he can try and win it from in camp. I'd love to see Mac Jones sit for a year. I would love to see it.
I've had the Mac Jones stats sitting up on my computer for what seems like a year, but it's coming on about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Well, why don't you give it right now, my friend?
Okay, so QB with Alabama, obviously last year, 311 completions with 402 attempts. That's right. That's a 77.4% completion rate. 4,500 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, the kind of athlete that Mac Jones is. He's not going to be running away from everybody. He's a pocket QB. He's almost the perfect fit with Bill Belichick. I haven't checked my phone.
Drew Bledsoe.
He's Drew Bledsoe, and I haven't checked my phone yet, but I'm pretty sure that Patriots fans are happy about this pick. He is the kind of guy who's going to fit perfectly with the us, not you mentality that Bill Belichick has. And well, I guess the Patriots didn't like losing last year.
All right, Tom, let's talk about team fit, because I think it's a matter of a system QB, which is what you were talking about before, an Alabama guy, going to a system.
Yes, this is something too, where, Mac Jones, I think he's going to get a coaching staff that knows how to utilize players and talents. I definitely think I agree with you, Van. I think Mac Jones needs to at least start the season on the sideline and wait, give Cam Newton his shot. And I think this is a system where, like we mentioned before with the other quarterbacks, now New Patriots can build their offense around Mac Jones. So I definitely think it's going to be interesting. And man, just imagine if Mac Jones has anywhere near the success of Tom Brady and the Jets had the chance before him. Who knows what could happen? But if you're New England, you need to get your quarterback. I think the 15th pick overall isn't too bad. It's not too far a reach. The Patriots didn't trade up to get him.
That's
Bill
huge.
Belichick knows.
That's huge.
Yes, they didn't trade up to get him is the key part, I think.
All right. Well,
because
the
I think
fantasy,
49ers
the fantasy take on it real quick, let's as we wrap this up, is huge. Okay. But it's not huge for this season. This is something that you're going to go on. So if you're in a keeper league and you want to take Mac Jones and sit on your bench for the future, you can get him late. If you're in a total keeper league, something like that, because down the road, he has the potential to be a Patriots QB, and they put up good stats. So this is something you've got to watch. Again, he's not going to be for this coming season, but he is going to be valuable. Josh, what do you think about this pick? It's the last one we're going to cover. This 15. We're over here. Talk to us.
Man, I like it. Like I said, I thought that maybe the Patriots were going to wait until the second round, kind of draft one of those, second echelon QBs and see what they could do with him. But when Mac Jones falls to you, I mean, we were talking about the beginning of the day about him maybe going at number 3 to San Francisco. So I think this is just perfect for Bill Belichick. Like you said, he's going to sit on the bench. He's going to, watch Cam Newton. He's going to watch how Josh McDaniels, does things as an offensive coordinator. And I think it's going to be a really good fit for New England. Like I said, I think they were tired of losing.
Yeah, and it's also too, you have to credit the Dolphins and Bills are a lot stronger than they have been in years past, and it looks like they're going to be established going forward. So you needed to get that QB play position settled. And I do think Cam Newton will start the season. Eventually, Mac Jones will get the key to the car, whether it's a Honda or a Ferrari. We'll see. But hey, you know what? Bill Belichick, you really can't hate him. And like we said, they didn't trade up for anything. They didn't give up any additional assets.
Oh no,
So-
you just gotta almost hate him for that. Let's touch on one thing real quick, something that we alluded to. I've been writing about it and talking about it for a week here. I thought there was a damn good chance for there to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks to go in the first round, possibly in the top 15. We made it. 5 QBs in the top 15. And I don't argue or disagree with any of them or where they were taken. Do you guys?
No, and I really think for Mac Jones, he's going to the NFL equivalent of Alabama. You know, where the structure's in place, you know, and you know, if Bill Belichick is going to coach you up in football, you're going to listen. You know, he's not going to a dysfunctional team. This is a team that, you know, they had some bad breaks. A lot of players opted out. They spent a lot of money in free agency. And I think the Patriots are, you know, they're ready to move forward and contend once again for the AFC East title.
All right. Well, look, I'd like to take this moment to thank both you, Tom, people out there listening. You can find him at defends_com on Twitter. Follow him. He knows what he's doing. And you're going to have to come back later and find out what the Giants did at pick 20, man. I mean, all right. And then
Absolutely.
you're going to find Joshua Griffith. You find him on Twitter at Joshua Griffith. O or 0?
0.
0. Okay,
I know.
yeah.
I was like one off getting the actual Joshua Griffith. The account's not even active. Twitter. Just give it to me.
Oh, that just sucks. That just sucks. We got to get you back the next time they have the Joshua Wars.
Yes, we do.
All right. That's totally
Absolutely.
going to happen. Totally going to happen. All right. You can find myself on Twitter at Stephen Vanover or on Facebook. Thanks everyone so much for being here. If you've not done it already, again, please hit that subscribe, hit that notify. We really appreciate it. And we're going to be doing wrap-up shows and previews for day 2, day 3, and then we're going to be doing the grading for the final thing at the end. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check back here at Sports Talk Line, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. Till next time, listen like you play with intensity. Thanks, everybody.